What's going on? And welcome back to another episode of Off the Schneid. We're a little bit, delayed between episodes. Last time we streamed, I think it was on Tuesday, right? So back on a Saturday, I was putting in some work on some spreadsheets that I'm going to share tonight. We're going to go through a bunch of things. It's going to be a bit of a longer episode. So strap yourselves in, grab yourselves a drink. I got a little rye ginger myself. And we're going to go through off-season, all this off-season talk. There is no off-season for me personally. It's my favorite time of year by quite a lot, unless my Bengals are in the Super Bowl. But this is my favorite time of year. I like to go through all of the teams, all 32 teams, look at contracts, look at, post-June 1, pre-June 1, trade cut, everything. I look through every single thing I can scour over, and then think about what's realistic here. So right now is the prime time on Twitter for all kinds of crazy, scenarios, trade scenarios that are thrown out there that just do not make sense. A lot of it does not make a lick of sense, and it just cannot make sense financially, right? So let's go through some of that stuff and talk about it. And this is the kind of thing, the big reason I like doing it because I'm a psycho, but it does help with, figuring things out best ball wise, fantasy football wise, right? It does keep you ahead of the game a lot of times. And, you can predict some things that are going to happen. Some things already have, which we'll get into. And then some things I fully expect to happen. It's just a matter of time. So let's dig into it. I'm going to show you, like I said, all of my spreadsheets that I've done so far. Most of them are still a work in progress. So this is just kind of team needs, going through the team needs for each team. So a couple resources. I meant to put it in the description, but if you don't know about these resources, they're called ourlads.com is one of my main resources. And then Over the Cap is what I use to suss out contracts and things like that. So let's jump into those quickly. I'll show you those two sites. That's what I use to kind of, like I said, suss out these different issues and these different possibilities. So this is ourlads.com. You can go in, every depth chart is in here. There's a lot of ads, which is annoying, but it's a free site. So, shout out to Our Lads. And then all of the free agents to come, to be restricted free agents, all that kind of stuff. It gives you a good idea for, what these teams are going to be looking for, if they can or cannot, re-sign some of these guys like DeMar Hamlin, Rasul Douglas. Are they going to be back? I don't know. Ty Johnson, is he going to be back? So if you're drafting Buffalo Bills, do you want to be drafting Ty Johnson? Do you want to be drafting Amari Cooper? Some people may not know, and they just see that, oh, Amari Cooper plays for Buffalo. Let's stack him up with Josh Allen, right? So that's one. And then Over the Cap is what I use. Again, free site, so there's a lot of ads, which is annoying. But again, let's stick with the Buffalo Bills. Jump in there, you see what kind of cap space they have. So they're over the cap, 14 million. It should go up by about 20, 30 million roughly. It does every single year, and I fully expect that to happen again. So that's going to create some relief that's already kind of built in. And then you can go through what I like to do. Let's say, who do we got? Curtis Samuel could be on the chopping block, right? So let's take a look. Is he not? Is he going to be on this team? So if they cut him June 1st, right, they're going to save $0. They're actually going to lose $3 million. And there's going to be $12 million of dead cap, right? Might make sense in 2026, but it does not make sense this year for the Buffalo Bills to cut Curtis Samuel, unless we look post June 1, right? Then they save $430,000. Still does not make sense for them to pay him $8.6 million to not play for this team, right? So is Curtis Samuel going to be a Buffalo Bill? 100%. Curtis Samuel will be on the Buffalo Bills this year. He will be out there. He will be running routes, especially if we go back to, Our Lads. They're losing Mac Hollins and losing Amari Cooper. Most likely those two won't be back. We'll see, but I think they're going to have better needs. Maybe Mac Hollins, but Amari Cooper will not be back with the Buffalo Bills. I think we can agree that, right? So there's also could be a difference if they trade this player. So does it make a difference? Yes, it does. If they want to trade Curtis Samuel, does that make sense? Yes. But is anybody in the NFL going to be trading for Curtis Samuel? They're going to give up, even a bag of balls. No, they're not. So the Buffalo Bills are stuck with Curtis Samuel. If they could trade him, wonderful. The 1.7 million dead cap and they save 7.3, they would take literally anything from anyone to trade Curtis Samuel. I guarantee that. But is anyone to trade him? No, they can't cut him. They're stuck with him. So that's an example of what I do. I go through all of these rosters, every single cuttable player that I deem cuttable. I've focused for what we're doing tonight. I've focused only on the offensive players. But typically I look through defensive players as well to see if they have some cap space. So let's dig into this. We're going to move this back over. I'll pull the spreadsheet back up. Let's get this down here. Let's pull up the spreadsheet. And let's look at some team needs first and foremost. So Buffalo Bills, they need a wide receiver, losing Mari Cooper, most likely Mac Hollins as well. Khalil Shakir, they need an X wide receiver. They need a wide receiver one. We all kind of know that. It's a big need for them. Corner, defensive end, defensive tackle, running back. So who's going to need what offensively out there? Let's just take a quick look at this spreadsheet. There's some better ones we'll get to. So this is just a quick one. Buffalo Bills, if you're drafting Josh Allen. So for me, when I'm drafting Josh Allen in best ball, right, I'm trying to pair him up with at least 3 rookies, probably. Or a tight end, but no, not even a tight end. They have Dawson Knox, who's not going anywhere. And they obviously have Dalton Kincaid. So it's a wide receiver. So I'm looking to pair Josh Allen up with probably 3 rookie wide receivers just to see if I can hit one, probably late first round type of guys. Emeka Ibuka, maybe. If you like Luther Burden, you can go there. If you like Matthew Golden, you can go there. But, pair them up with those rookies in case one of them lands on Buffalo. They could also look for some cheap free agents, which we'll get to in a couple more slides. The Jets are an interesting one. I kind of wanted to just chat about the Jets and the Saints specifically. We'll get more into them, but the Jets are not in as bad of a position as people are painting them out to be right now, which again, we'll get into in a second a little more. So yeah, I have quarterback on there as their number 3 need. It's obviously, the most important position in football. No question. And they need one. They already cut Aaron Rodgers or just informed him. And we'll get into that as well in a few slides, but it's important. The Patriots, I don't think wide receivers is as big a need as other people do. Doesn't mean they're not going to spend that capital and either draft one early or sign T. Higgins. They've already allegedly come out and said that, they're going to be interested in T. Higgins. So we'll see where that kind of lands. Pittsburgh Steelers obviously don't have a quarterback under contract right now. Justin Fields, Russell Wilson are both free agents, unrestricted free agents. So we'll see how that works out. Same thing with, the wide receiver position. Baltimore Ravens are an interesting one. They only have 2 wide receivers, I believe, under contract. Let's pull that up over here so I can kind of talk through it. Definitely Zay Flowers, obviously. Tylan Wallace is a free agent, unrestricted. Nelson Aguilar, Deontay Hardy, Steven Sims. They have Bateman, Flowers, and then it's Devontae Walker, realistically. So he's another guy that I'm looking at. And again, we'll get into that more in a couple slides, but he's a guy that I'm looking at. The Bengals, it's pretty obvious there. T. Higgins, we'll see what happens there. Running back for the Steelers, Jalen Warren's a restricted free agent, probably coming back. Najee Harris may or may not be back with the Steelers. We will see. Houston Texans, wide receiver, obviously. Stephon Diggs is a free agent. Tank Dell probably, might play towards the end of the season, maybe next year. We'll see, but I wouldn't bank on it. So kind of go through, and what I've done is, just sussed out, what are the biggest needs, per team, positionally. A lot of cornerbacks. It's no secret. A lot of teams, in my opinion, my rule of thumb for teams, every single NFL team drafting, you need one of each of these positions every single draft. I don't care what exact position they are, but you need an offensive lineman and a defensive back in every single draft. That's how I look at it. You can never have enough good corners, and you can never have enough good offensive linemen. So every team in the NFL should draft one offensive lineman and one defensive back, whether that's a safety or a corner, every single year, in my opinion. So I have it as a high need for a lot of teams, if not the first or second. So they always say if you're a middling wide receiver in high school, right? If you're a decent, okay wide receiver in high school, flip to the other side of the field, play defense, and you might be an NFL player. We'll see. So, yeah, that's just, I just wanted to show that one quickly. We can dig into more of that if you'd like. Throw it in the chat. Let me know what you know, if you want to see. We can do a breakdown, look at a depth chart together, look at their needs, why I think it's needs. We can do that if you want. Just fire it in the chat and let me know if you want to see specific teams. Let's jump over to the free agents. So 2025 pending free agents. All of these players are unrestricted free agents. There's no restricted free agents on here. So no Jordan Mason, no Jalen Warren, right? These are unrestricted. They can sign with anyone they choose, and they're probably already being tampered with, a lot of them. I know you're not supposed to. Oh, you can't talk to the agents, but it's very, very, very well known that every year at the combine, agents are there, GMs are there. What do you think they're doing? Going for dinner, going for beers, having themselves a little rye and ginger, and just having a conversation, right? Off the record. No one knows, right? It's very well known that that's what's happening. So, plus there's the early tampering period, and then free agency opens up in a couple weeks after the combine. So all of these guys are readily available, unrestricted free agents. We look at the quarterbacks here. Jacoby Brissett, not like, he's a guy that you could bring in with one of these rookies that, if you've been watching the show, I'm not very high on these rookies this year. There's a lot of, I honestly, I don't think any of them are ready to start in the NFL right now. I need to dig in more on my tape. I've just started. Literally, I've watched Jalen Milroe and a little bit of Jackson Dart and a little bit of Cam Ward, but I need to watch more of everyone but Milroe. I've seen what I need out of Milroe, but let's say you do draft a guy like Jalen Milroe. You could bring in, a Jacoby Brissett, to start. Let's say you're the, I don't know. Let's say you're the Saints and you move on for Derek Carr. Let's say, they would never do this, but let's say you're a team like the Steelers where you don't have a quarterback on your roster. Bring in Jacoby Brissett, bring in Jalen Milroe, something like that. You know what I mean? That would be a decent pairing. Same thing with Jameis Winston. Makes a lot of sense. I don't have Aaron Rodgers on this list because he's on another one. We'll get there in a second. Russell Wilson, Justin Fields. I think Justin Fields is at the top of the list, in my opinion. I think the Giants are a really good fit, potentially the Saints if they wanted to go down that road. But I actually think the Giants are a good fit for Justin Fields. We'll see where that lands. And Mac Jones is someone that nobody's talking about. He's only 27 years old, and he's shown that he can play in this league as late as last year, right? With the Jags when T-Law got hurt. Mac Jones can play. He can conduct an NFL offense. We've seen it. He was very good as a rookie. He got a super raw deal with the Patriots, took a backup role in his home state, in his hometown in Jacksonville, right? Now he's a unrestricted free agent. He can go anywhere. I think Mac Jones is a guy that you can look at as a stopgap quarterback, but I'm not going to say he's a franchise quarterback, but you can see what you have there. He's right along the lines of a Geno Smith, I think. So I would look at a guy like Mac Jones over a bunch of these rookies. If I need to start a game right now, Trey Lance is available, still only 25 years old. He's an unrestricted free agent, 3rd overall pick once upon a time, where Mac Jones probably should have been that 3rd overall pick, but digress. Zach Wilson, I didn't put on this list because I think he's terrible. Kyle Trask is not on this list, who I personally had ranked ahead of Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson went 2nd overall. You know the story. Here we are. But Trey Lance started week 17 week 18 last year. And there's still a lot of room there. He's only 25 years old, or he'll be 25 years old by the end of this season. So all of these ages are kind of prorated for the end of the season. They will be this age by the end of the 2025 season. So I think that there's tons of meat on the bone. You can see what you have with Trey Lance. It's not out of the question that he could be somebody's franchise quarterback. That is not out of the question whatsoever. So that's a guy that I fully expect to get a shot at starting somewhere. you could bring in a Trey Lance with a guy like Jacoby Brissett, something like that, and then see what you got. Or, the Titans. Let's say you're the Tennessee Titans. Bring in Trey Lance to compete with Will Levis and see who's better. Take it from there. See what you got. Pick Abdul Carter, first overall. Makes a little more sense to me than some of these other quarterbacks. There are some other quarterbacks that are available, in a trade. We'll get there in the next slide, in the next spreadsheet. So running backs, Ty Johnson, 28 years old, unrestricted free agent. We'll see. He's a depth piece. We'll see where he ends up. I'm not currently drafting Ty Johnson personally. Nick Chubb, same thing. I'm not drafting. He could just be done. Like the injuries that he's had, it's pretty tough to come back from at 30 years old. So who's going to take a shot on him? He might not. Honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if Nick Chubb doesn't get signed at all, if I'm being honest with you. So I'm not drafting Nick Chubb at all. Najee Harris is pretty much at the top of the list, in my opinion, as far as free agent running backs. Who knows where he goes? There's lots of spots that need running back. There's some really good landing spots out there, which we'll get to again in a couple slides here. Javonte Williams is available, only 25 years old, and he was just not built for that system. He was built for the prior system, but then when Sean Payton comes in, he's not that guy. He's not a power runner, and he's not an Alvin Kamara type. So I think that Audric Estime fits that Mark Ingram role. They're still looking kind of for an Alvin Kamara type, although Jaleel McLaughlin could be that guy. And then they'll bring somebody in probably in free or the draft, most likely, maybe free agency, but probably the draft, in my opinion, unless Blake Watson is going to be that guy who I really like. But either way, Javonte Williams is available. J.K. Dobbins, his injury history is 27. We'll see where he lands. The Chargers are a good spot for him to go back to. That's all, same as last year. That's a phenomenal landing spot for a running back. And then Rico Dowdle with the Cowboys, finally got a shot, did pretty well in that kind of 1-year audition. So we'll see where he ends up, but that's another guy that I could see just kind of falling into obscurity a little bit. We'll see where he lands in free agent, but I'm not, holding my breath for him. I'll keep a candle lit and I'll leave the light on, but I'm not really drafting too much of Dowdle, not drafting too much J.K. Dobbins at all at cost. Little bit of Javonte, definitely a fair amount of Najee Harris. I think there's still quite a bit of meat on the bone there with Najee, and he might actually be more efficient and go, more, have more touchdown potential in another offense. We'll see where he ends up going and lands. Aaron Jones, probably going to be back with the Vikings, I would imagine. A date to remember for the entire offseason. It's very, very, it's being very publicly addressed right now with Travis Kelce with his contract, March 16th. We're going to learn a lot on March 16th. It's there's a lot of roster bonuses that are due. So players are either going to be cut, traded, whatever, March 16th. And Travis Kelce is at the top of that list. Obviously, he needs to make a decision on his retirement. They can save a boatload of money if they release him and then he retires, sort of a thing. So if they cut him, obviously it's just on paper. If he retires, that's great. That's wonderful. They can save a lot of money, about $10 million with that Travis Kelce contract. But we'll see. I digress. Either way, it's an important date to remember, March 16th. We're going to learn a lot about a lot of these players. And then Cam Akers, only 26 years old somehow, couple torn Achilles. He's still getting the job done with the Vikings. He might be back with the Vikings too. We'll see. That's a fantastic landing spot. Even with 31-year-old Aaron Jones, I still think that that's a good landing spot for a rookie. Maybe a Najee Harris, Javonte, sure, something like that, free agent or rookie. Let's look at the wide receivers. Amari Cooper and Mac Hollins, 31, 32 years old. I'm not holding my breath for either of these players. I think Mac Hollins is going undrafted most of the time, and Amari Cooper's pretty low ADP-wise. I'm not super high on either. T. Higgins, I don't particularly expect to be back with the Bengals. I've been talking about it a lot on the show. He's obviously the cream of the crop. As far as this entire free agent class, it's quite weak. This whole free agent class is pretty weak, especially in skill position players. But T. Higgins is probably the cream of the crop there. 26 years old, just turned 26 years old. So again, a lot of meat left on the bone there. But where's he going to go if he ends up at the Patriots? Is he a second-round pick like he's going right now? Not for me. We'll see where he ends up. I actually think the Arizona Cardinals might be a good spot for T. Higgins. We'll see where that ends up, but that might be where I end up. I have another fit slide in a couple here that I'll show, and I might throw him on there a little bit later, do some digging about it, but I'll show that in a few slides. Elijah Moore is pretty high up there for me. He's only 24 years old right now. He'll be 25 before the season starts. Yeah, he's very good. I'm going to get way more exposure to Elijah Moore personally. I know Pat from Fantasy Dog Pound, he's got his bags packed. I'm about 20% as it sits right now, but I'm probably going to juice those up as long as he's a 20th round pick. That seems to get forgotten a lot. That's a big reason why I wanted to do this show, right? Is these are the types of guys that are potentially league winners that are getting undrafted or drafted in the 20th round, 18th through 20th round. You know, Elijah Moore at 25 years old, let's say he goes to the Houston Texans, wheels fucking up, man, for Elijah Moore, right? So, yeah, that's the type of guy, or T. Higgins for that matter. Don't really particularly see with T. Higgins, but Elijah Moore in that Houston Texans offense, you betcha, man. You betcha. Stephon Diggs, 32 years old, coming off a torn ACL. We'll see. I'm not drafting him really at all at that age. I'm just kind of out at with the injury. DeAndre Hopkins, Hollywood Brown. I expect one of these two to come back to the Chiefs on a really, really cheap deal, and it's probably Hollywood Brown. I think Hopkins probably walks unless he's literally trying to take just zero money. We'll see. Putt Daddy over here. Let's see what he's saying. What's happened? And I would push wide receiver down the list for KC. We'll always have cap issues because of Mahomes, and we'll continue to sign second tier wide receivers. They can continue that strategy if they get line help. Sign second tier priority with Worthy and Rice, of course. Yeah. The thing is, like, they don't. Where did I have them? Second, yeah, left tackle obviously high on the list. Right guard, I don't know. I think wide receivers are pretty high priority for them. They literally have two. I'm pretty sure it's literally two wide receivers that they have under contract currently. Literally. Oh no, there's a Sky Moore, sorry, and Nico Remigo. They have those other two. So if you want to include them, you can. I would probably put them pretty low on the totem pole. Realistically, I'd say they have two wide receivers under contract right now, which is not in a good spot. So it's pretty high priority, in the draft. Again, one of these two, I think, will be on this team at a super, super discounted contract. I think Hollywood Brown, even less than he signed for last year, if I'm being honest, on another 1 year prove it deal. But we'll see. Josh Palmer is another guy, only 26 years old. So tons of meat left on that bone. And he's been pretty good, realistically, in an up and down offense, right? He could be back with this team, but I'm not sure he does. I'm really not sure he does come back to the Chargers. But either way, 26 years old, he's definitely an NFL wide receiver. So we'll see where he ends up. There's a lot left there. I think he can do some damage, but we'll see where he lands. He's definitely someone to keep an eye on. And I don't know if I have him on this other list I'm going to show, but I'll put him on if he's not. So Josh Palmer's a guy. Darius Slayton, free agent, finally out of the grips of the Giants. He actually got some decent money from them. That could be a type of tier 2, like you just said there, Putt Daddy. That could be a tier 2 type wide receiver that could go to the Chiefs, try to win a Super Bowl, that sort of a thing. I don't mind that. The Bills are another good spot for a quality vet like a Josh Palmer, like a Darius Slayton, De'Ami Brown, unrestricted free agent. This isn't a guy that I'm drafting. There's a lot of people are just expecting that the Commanders are going to bring him back. Maybe they do, maybe they don't, but he's had 4 years to prove it and to get there, and he's really done nothing. He did have a good playoffs, but other than that, he's 26 years old, 4 years of experience, and hasn't really done it. You could say that any wide receiver would have done that with Jane Daniels throwing the ball. So I'm not rushing out to draft De'Ami Brown personally. Definitely not Noah Brown either. He's 29 years old, often banged up. He'll get a job somewhere, but I'm not too worried about it. Keenan Allen, 33 years old. Maybe he comes back with the Bears. I actually like that fit if I'm the Bears. They have a ton of cap space. I probably would look to bring back Keenan Allen, but depends on what the money's at. That's going to be a big, that's gonna decide, like, what is he worth? 10 maybe? Like, what are you gonna spend on Keenan Allen, honestly, when you have Rome Odunze, when you have DJ Moore? I'm not so sure. That's another guy that could take a super cheap deal with the Bills, the Chiefs. My Bengals would be a great fit. I would love to have Keenan Allen in the slot on a 1-year deal. So we'll see. Chris Godwin, that's another guy I'd love my Bengals to draft. Before the injury last year, I was all in on getting Chris Godwin. We'll see with the injury now, but he should be all right. He's 29 years old. Probably won't be back with the Bucs, but we'll see. Demarcus Robinson's a free agent. Tutu Atwell. I don't particularly expect either to be back. Maybe Robinson, but we'll see. Then we got Tyler Boyd and Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. Nick Westbrook-Ikhine is getting kind of steamed up, as in, like, there was a tweet thrown out there saying that, he could go to the Chiefs or something like that. And it got some steam, and all of a sudden people are just thinking he's going to be on the Chiefs for God knows why. Again, 28 years old. Yeah, he popped off in the end zone a few times last year, but I would probably rather have Tyler Boyd. Again, if I'm the Chiefs, if I'm the Bills, probably not coming back with the Bengals, but he would make a lot of sense for a lot of teams that aren't willing to spend a lot of money on the position and need a good quality veteran NFL wide receiver. There's a bunch of guys like that in this year's class, and that's pretty much all you're going to get is a quality veteran NFL type wide receiver, where you don't want to take a risk on some of these rookies. You just want a guy to come in, be able to learn your offense, and go out there and execute. So we'll see where it lands up. But, a guy like Elijah Moore on the Texans, T. Higgins on the Cardinals, something like that, we'll see. I'll dig in more, but I'll show you my slide that I have. I'm building on that, and we'll go from there. Tight ends, again, pretty weak. I think Mike Gesicki will be back with the Bengals, 30 years old. I'm not too worried about that. I think Zach Ertz will be back with the Commanders, 35 years old. I'm not too worried there. Juwan Johnson's an interesting one, 29 years old. The Saints are an interesting team. We're going to dig into that a little bit more in the next slide on the Saints. So we'll see what ends up happening. I do not expect them to be back with the Saints. They just don't have the money for it, and it doesn't make sense for them to be going out and signing a guy like Juwan Johnson. And I don't think he would want to be back there anyways. So he probably, leaves, goes somewhere else. Makes sense. He's a guy that you can draft in the 20th round. Conklin, free agent, again, goes for free. 20th round guy, free agent. Who knows where he's going to land? If they don't bring back Austin Hooper, maybe the Patriots make some sense. I don't know. We'll see. But Austin Hooper there as well, it makes sense for him to come back. So maybe we see Austin Hooper, Tyler Conklin, or maybe a rookie come into New England, but not a huge deal or landing spot. So let's get into the kind of meat and potatoes of this whole episode. What's possible, what's not possible. So there's a lot of talk about Matthew Stafford specifically, which we'll talk about in a second. But we have Aaron Rodgers here. This has already been made public. So I'd already done this, and I wasn't about to take it off and change it. But they did designate him a post June 1. So they're going to have $14 million in dead cap the next 2 seasons, plus some void year stuff. But with cutting him post June 1, they're saving $9.5 million this season, $49 million next season, and then they save another $7 million in 2027 by designating him post June 1. So that's already happened. Aaron Rodgers is going to be out there. It's just a matter, it's already been made public, so it is happening. Deshaun Watson, he's just an absolute cap, black hole, just destroyed. There's nothing they can do. I honestly think that they should just cut him a check and send him out the door. It doesn't make sense to have him even around, especially if he doesn't end up playing next season. He's just $172 million. Yes, I said $172 million against your cap. Like, he's just an absolute sieve, an absolute siphon of your cap, which is just their own fault. So, you made your bed. Kirk Cousins is a trade candidate. He is a trade candidate, but again, post June 1. So this is a guy that, the Jets, the Giants, teams like that can go out, the Raiders maybe can go out and trade for. And then it makes sense for the Atlanta Falcons to designate it post June 1. So, 12 and a half post June 1 versus 37 and a half, right? $25 million difference. That's massive. So they're absolutely going to designate it a post June 1, when or if they're able to make a trade. And that's just in a trade. They can't cut him. They can't cut Kirk Cousins. They can if they want to, just eat a bunch of cap, but he's got to be worth something to someone. Someone's got to be willing to throw them even a 7th round pick. Who cares? That's not, you'll get more than that. But I'm just saying, it doesn't really matter if they're not going to be playing him, the Atlanta Falcons, right? If he's going to be their backup, then trade him to somebody, clear up some cap space. So post June 1 this year, 12 and a half dead, 27.5. Next year, 12 and a half dead, 45 in savings. And then in 2027, 12 and a half dead, another 45 million in savings. So that's a guy that teams can go out and trade for. But again, it'll be a post June 1 designation. That doesn't mean anything for the team trading for him, as long as you can make sure he's healthy, which he should be fine. So that's a guy. Same thing, Derek Carr. They can cut him post June 1, but I think they would be more inclined, and we'll see if they do that. So I wanted to talk about the Saints. We'll dig more into it in a second. Actually, let's just go through the list, and then we'll dig into the Saints in particular and the Jets. The Saints and the Jets we'll dig into specifically because there's a lot going on with those two teams. So they can cut them post June 1. Pre-June 1, they really can't. It does not make sense. So it'll be a post-June 1 designation if they want to. There'll be 21.4, you see it there in dead cap, right, this year, and then 30 million in savings this year if they cut him post-June 1. If they trade him post-June 1, then it's, they save $10 million in cap space, which is massive. So obviously they would go that direction if they want to trade him, if they can find a trade partner, right? And then same thing in 2026, 11.4 dead, 50 million in savings, doesn't matter. So it doesn't change anything for 2026, but it's a massive $10 million difference in 2025, cut versus trade. So he's definitely on the block. If it makes sense for somebody, Derek Carr could be a guy that you could go out and get. Geno Smith, I don't think that anything happens with Geno. I think Geno's going to stay on the Seahawks. I really don't think that it makes any sense in the world to go out and, what it does make sense to do is draft a quarterback. That absolutely makes sense for the Seahawks, and they will 100% sit for the entire season. And Geno plays on this contract. He really doesn't have a crazy amount of leverage, Geno, in my opinion. His agent, I'm sure is going to go down that road, but it's like, listen, man, there's really nothing we can do here. Maybe you give him some sort of bogus couple more years where you eat some money and you basically just give him a raise this year and cut him a check, sort of a thing, maybe. But it doesn't matter if they cut him or they trade him, pre or post. It doesn't matter. There's a bunch of contracts with the Seahawks that are kind of built that way, where it doesn't matter if they cut him, if they trade him, post June, pre June 1, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's the same amount of money. So if they do go down that road where they cut, trade, whatever, 13.5 million dead cap, and then 31 million in savings for Geno. So he's another guy that's out there. Let's just look together at Matt Stafford, because this is a guy that everybody's talking about. The thing with Stafford is he wants a raise. Like, let's pull it up. I'm going to switch screens here. All he wants is a raise. And he fully deserves it. He absolutely, absolutely deserves a raise. And I think they're going to give it to him. It's just a matter of time. So they have some cap space, $38.3 million in cap space, right? Plus, when the cap goes up, we'll see how much kind of wiggle room they have from there. But obviously, Matt Stafford's going to cost a little bit more money. So let's dig into this. He's under contract this season and next season, right? Can they cut him pre-June 1? You tell me. No, they can't. They save $300,000 this year, 31 million next year. Cool. But they're not going to pay him 49 million. So that's not happening, out of the question, right? Can they cut him post June 1? Yeah, potentially. They save 23 million, still 31 next year, but 23 million this year. But again, they're not going to pay him $26 million to not play for their team, right? Especially when they're only a few plays away from the Super Bowl this year. So it's not going to happen. Then trade pre-June 1. They can save a little more if they trade them pre-June 1 versus cutting them pre-June 1. So that's I guess possible, not very likely, right? But they can do the same thing, save a few more million if they want to trade him post June 1. So again, they want to pay him $22.6 million to play for the New York Giants. I really don't think so. I think a lot of this chatter, and that's the problem with this time of year, is a lot of this chatter, a lot of this fodder that's out there is purposefully put out there by agents, by teams even, right? By agents, by teams. They're battling each other through the media, giving out nuggets of information. Do you really think that there's anything that the Rams can get that's better than Matt Stafford right now? I'll let you think about that for a second. I asked a question on Twitter of someone that I like and respect, and I'll leave it there. I'm not going to name names. I like and I respect his work, and I like his opinion. I respect his opinion. But he told me Quinn Ewers. Like, Quinn Ewers, sure. If you want to draft Quinn Ewers with Matthew Stafford, sure, absolutely. Fully on board with that. Let's go. Absolutely makes sense. But you're not going to trade Matt Stafford and draft Quinn Ewers and trot out fucking Quinn Ewers next year. That is the worst thing I've ever heard, strategy-wise, roster building-wise, as far as the LA Rams are concerned. Plus, we know through years of fuck them picks and cash over cap, right? We know that this owner is willing to cut a check. So there's a lot of teams that need to do that. Right now, Jerry Jones with the Dallas Cowboys needs to get out his pen and write a big fat check to Dak Prescott, big fat check to Micah Parsons, big fat check to Tyler Smith, clear up some cap space and make some fucking moves, make your team better, and see if you can get to a Super Bowl. That's what the Cowboys need to do. The Rams, we know, are willing to do that. They've shown us years of proof that they've shown us they're willing to cut a check. And all that means is they got to convert some salary to signing bonus, just move some money around, cut a check. Here's 20, 30, 40, $50 million cash. There you go. You're on our team still. Have a great day. That's what has to happen with Matthew Stafford. And we know that owner is willing to do it. So that's what they need to do. They need to renegotiate this contract, throw some void years on it, kick it down the road a little bit. The old Mickey Loomis, New Orleans Saints, right? Make it happen because your window is still open as long as you keep it open, right? They have to just do a few things to keep it open, try to get to another Super Bowl and see if you can win another one. So that's what I fully expect. I would be pretty blown away if Matthew Stafford was traded away from the Rams, unless there's a quarterback coming back, a la the Jared Goff trade. If there was something like that they could wheel and deal, which I don't know where that trade partner is. So I'm not going to say they will not trade him. They will not trade him unless there's a quality quarterback that Sean McVay knows he can win with coming back. There. That's what I'm saying about Matthew Stafford. So if you disagree with me, I don't know how you can. It doesn't make any sense if I'm being honest with you. So I do not have Matt Stafford on my list, and I will not be adding him to the list because it doesn't make a lick of sense. So there's my big spiel about Matthew Stafford. So Geno Smith is on the list. He's the last one. It's possible, but not likely. Let's go to running backs. Really nothing here. Gus Edwards, Jamal Williams. Jamal Williams is another New Orleans Saint player that I fully expect to be gone. So you can cut him post June 1, eat less than $1 million, $780,000 in dead cap, and you're going to save yourself $3.15 million. I fully expect that to happen. They have Alvin Kamara, who does not make sense to do anything with. Financially, it just doesn't really make sense. Even in a trade, even post June 1, all that stuff. I really don't think that Alvin Kamara is going to be off this team, but you have Kendre Miller, you have Jordan Mims. Unfortunately, I think Jamal Williams is 100% going to be off this team post June 1. Gus Edwards, again, he's under contract. It's relatively cheap, but I would personally rather kick that money somewhere else if I'm the Chargers. 1.125 dead money and then 3.125 in savings. I get rid of Gus Edwards if it's me. We'll see what happens. I know he's a Greg Roman guy. I know Harbaugh likes him, so it's hard to say if they will for sure. In my opinion, they definitely should. I think that $3.1 million could be better utilized somewhere else, like in the wide receiver room potentially, maybe the tight end room. But either way, I don't think Gus Edwards is going to be on this team. Moving to wide receivers, this is another reason why I want to talk about the Jets. Devontae Adams, most certainly not going to be on this team. Absolutely not, especially with Aaron Rodgers gone. And again, it'll be another post-June 1 designation almost for sure. Why? They can save $6 million, a little more than $6 million this year by designating a post-June 1, 8.3 or versus $2 million in dead cap. So they can free up $36 million this year with the cutting, trading, whatever you want to do with Devontae Adams. So that could be the biggest wide receiver name or the biggest, free agent name if or when he gets cut, unless someone's willing to throw some capital at the Jets, which is possible. I was thinking about this the other day, PS. This team right here, the Cincinnati Bengals. Can you imagine Devontae Adams with the Cincinnati Bengals on a cheap 1-year type of deal, 2-year deal? He's 31 years old, maybe 32 by the end of the year. He doesn't have a ton left in the tank. If he wants to win another championship, did he win it with the Packers? I'm not even sure. But either way, he wants to win a Super Bowl. Bengals might be a good place to look. So I'm holding out hope on that one, but not likely. Just I was thinking about it the other day. So that's pretty much definitely going to happen. And then, by designating a post June 1 in 2026, they can save another $4.2 million. It just is going to happen. It's just a matter of time. They haven't announced it yet, but it will happen post June 1, almost 100%. Same thing for Allen Lazard. So the Jets are clearing up some space here. We got Allen Lazard, cut or trade. But again, post June 1, almost 100%. They can save another, $4.4 million, something like that, by designating a post June 1 cut. Most likely, nobody in the world is going to be trading any sort of assets for Allen Lazard. So it'll be post June 1. They'll save another $11 million. So, and then another $11 million in 2026. So if you look, let's add it up right now. This is why I was saying, we'll talk about the Jets now that we've seen everything. So why I think the Jets job is not that bad, and it opens the door for being able to trade for a Kirk Cousins, a Derek Carr, something like that if they want to, if they think they're close enough. They could go down that road. So there's freeing up $11 million with Allen Lazard, pretty much 100%. Another $36 million with Devontae Adams, pretty much 100%. So that's $47 million right there in cap space that they're freeing up with 2 wide receivers. Then you look at the Aaron Rodgers money they're saving, another $9.5 million, right? You're looking at 58, what are we at? $57 million of cap space for the Jets. That's why this job's actually not that bad. It's really not. If they can go out there and shore up that offensive line a little bit, get another weapon or two in the wide receiver room, right? They're in actually a pretty good spot, the Jets. If Aaron Glenn can get that defense settled, which they have a lot of, openings in the defensive side of the ball. They have a lot of free agents on the defensive side of the ball, the New York Jets, but they have a ton of cap space coming to them very, very soon, plus a draft, right? Plus a free agency, which, that money will come in handy. So that's, the Jets' job is really not that bad. They need a quarterback, obviously, but they have the luxury of being able to trade for one of these guys, the Kirk Cousins, the Derek Carrs of the world, if they really want to. If anyone, Kirk Cousins would probably be at the top of that list. Justin Fields could come in, play with Garrett Wilson, right? Something like that. Even a Mac Jones could come in and get the job done, I think. Trey Lance, all these guys are possibilities. maybe like a Jacoby Brissett comes in with a Trey Lance, with a Justin Fields, whatever, right? Something like that would make sense for the Jets, in my opinion. And they have a ton of money. So they can make some moves. They can do some stuff. Not that bad of a spot, in my opinion. So let's move on. Romeo Doubs, asked for a trade last year, was a little out of pocket, didn't make a lot of sense, so they can free up a lot of money actually and eat barely any dead cap money. He also, has some concussion issues. He had 2 concussions at least this year, plus, earlier in his career in college, that sort of a thing. Is it time just to say, hey, Romeo, it just isn't working out. Obviously, you wanted a trade, you want your release, whatever. Here you go. Grant him his wish and send him packing. In a trade, they can cut him, whatever, pre-post, doesn't matter. They can do whatever they want. They're only eating $170,000, and they can save $3.325 million by moving on from Romeo Doubs. Right. They have a guy like Bo Melton, Malik Heath, even in the wings. They can sign guys. They can draft wide receivers like they always seem to do. Christian Watson's hurt, so they're going to need some bodies in there. But, does it make sense just to cut ties with Romeo Doubs? I think that's very on the table. We'll see what happens, but I think it's very live and on the table. So if you're drafting, Green Bay Packers, if you're drafting Jordan Love with Romeo Doubs, might want to hesitate just a little bit until we get some clarity on what's going to happen. So Raven McLeod probably gone. I don't think it makes sense to bring him back for the Falcons. You can easily replace him with a bunch of these free agents, with guys in the draft. I think that, he was good for the team, but I just don't think it makes sense. I think he can save that money. Yes, he can return kicks and punts. You can find that sort of thing. I'm not too worried about it. They still have, I think, Avery Williams, who returns punts, kicks. $500,000 in dead cap, save $3.6 million. Give me that $3.6 million to spend somewhere else, which they have to, clear up some space due to the Kirk Cousins, deal. If they trade him, it can clear some space. If they get rid of Ray McLeod, it can clear some space. So that's something I probably do if I'm the Atlanta Falcons. And then Adam Thielen, a name that doesn't really get talked about much about leaving. People just pencil him in with the Carolina Panthers. I don't know why you wouldn't, but he did say he wants to continue playing, which is great, but it might not make sense for the Carolina Panthers to bring him back. More importantly, it might not make sense for Adam Thielen in what's most likely going to be his final season to go back to the Carolina Panthers. If I'm Adam Thielen and I'm the Panthers, I think it makes sense mutually to just move on from each other. I think it would be a mutual thing. I want to go somewhere that I have a shot to win a Super Bowl. You guys need some money. You have Coker, you have Liggett, you have some other guys that you want to focus on. You're a young up and coming team. You had me already to mentor these guys, right? I did my job. Let me go see if I can win a Super Bowl. So if I'm the Kansas City Chiefs, we talked about it earlier again, those second tier types of guys. If I'm the Kansas City Chiefs and Adam Thielen becomes available, you bet your fucking ass I'm going to go and give Adam Thielen a call if I'm the Chiefs. I think that would be a match made in heaven. I think that would be a perfect fit. Wouldn't cost a lot of money. He's a fantastic guy to have on your team. That's somebody that they can absolutely use on their roster. So if I'm Adam Thielen, I want to ride off in the sunset and potentially win a Super Bowl with the Kansas City Chiefs. Mutually, you part ways with the Panthers. They can save, if they cut him post June 1, $1.667 million in dead cap. They can save 6.3. That's a ton of savings. That's a lot of cap space. They have a lot of holes on that young roster. I just think it mutually makes sense for both Thielen and the Panthers. And then that's my preferred landing spot for Adam Thielen would be the Kansas City Chiefs. I think that just makes honestly too much sense in the world. We'll see where it lands, but that's my, loose prediction of something that could happen. Rashid Shaheed and Cedric Wilson. Again, Rashid Shaheed, not a name that's getting talked about a lot as being a cut candidate, but look at the money and this is where we'll talk about the Saints. We'll get into more about the Saints, but Cedric Wilson's gone. That's happening. I don't need to dig into that too much. He's going to be gone. $500,000 in dead cap, $2.9 million in savings. They need to they need to shed as much cap as humanly possible. So Cedric Wilson's going to be gone almost for sure, in my opinion. Rashid Shaheed, $250,000 in dead cap post June 1, save $4.2 million, and they save another $200,000. That's whatever in 2026. The 4.2 savings in 2025 is what really matters. And you're a bad team. The Saints, if I'm the Saints, what I do, and what do we got? Cooper Kupp, Deebo, a couple other guys. Let's talk about the tight ends quickly. What I do, Taysom Hill, let's go down here. Taysom Hill, you're gone. They've already announced it. That is going to happen, right? Post June 1, they saved $10 million. Taysom Hill's old. Let's get him off the roster. Doesn't make sense. He's gone. I probably cut Foster Moreau too, right? So you're losing Juwan Johnson. You're losing Foster Moreau. You're losing Taysom Hill. That's what I would do if I'm the Saints. They eat $700,000 in dead cap and they save $4.1 million if you're the Saints. So 10, 14, 14, 18, 21, trade Derek Carr, 61, right? $61 million right there. With cutting post June 1, trading post June 1, they save $62 million, the Saints. And then they're all right. They're a terrible team. Don't get me wrong, but the Saints are going to be a god-awful team regardless, right? So maybe you bring in a cheap a cheap quarterback like a Justin Fields or something on a 1-year deal that maybe he can, or a Trey Lance, maybe he can be your franchise quarterback. Or not, it's fine. Then you're the worst team in the NFL. Who cares? It's a fantastic quarterback draft next year, right? In 2026. That should be their focus. So my theory behind the New Orleans Saints on why nobody wanted to take that piece of shit job is because, Mickey Loomis, the team said, here's what we're doing. We're going to probably, we're going to trade Derek Carr. We're going to cut this guy. We're going to cut this guy. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're going to be god awful for a season. And then we're going to draft a quarterback, and then we're going to move on from there, right? So you're going to get 3 years. Whoever the quarterback, whoever the head coach was going to be, ends up it's Kellen Moore, obviously, because he's the only one that wanted to take that piece of shit job that, you're basically going to get your asses kicked for 17 games next season, but you'll get a couple years to hopefully get it right. You'll get a chance to draft a quarterback, and then you'll get 2 years with that quarterback to see where we're at. If you're not there, we'll move on from there. So that's what I think is going to happen. You can free up $60+ million if you're the Saints by doing these things, right? And then just be a horrible team that you're going to be anyways. Trot out, whoever, Trey Lance, and then, Spencer Rattler, Jay Kaner, whatever happens, happens. At least you bring in some sort of quarterback to kind of sell it to your fan base that you're trying to win. Right. And maybe you do. Maybe Justin Fields is that guy. And maybe he's your franchise quarterback. Maybe Trey Lance is your franchise quarterback, right? Worth a shot. If not, you at least sold it to your fan base that you weren't just throwing in the towel. And then you're the worst team in the NFL. You get first overall pick. You draft Arch Manning, who his granddad also got drafted by the New Orleans Saints. Archie Manning, drafted by the New Orleans Saints. So maybe Arch Manning gets drafted to the New Orleans Saints as well. Everybody's happy. They move on, blah, blah, blah. There's the story. So that's kind of my theory and what could happen if I'm the Saints, where it kind of makes sense. So that's why I cut Rashid Shaheed. Do I think they would be a better team without him? No. I think that he's probably, he's the second best wide receiver on this team, for sure, behind Chris Olave. But you can save that cap space, which means a lot. He's had a tough time staying healthy, but the biggest thing is the cap space. And, he's not really a part of your future, realistically. He's only 27 years old, but, he's realistically not a huge part of your future. At least, honestly, you don't really want him to be. You want Chris Olave and some other stud wide receiver to be your future. So that's kind of my theory and what I think the Saints should do. That's why I think Rashid Shaheed may not be with the Saints. Cooper Kupp, a lot of talk about it already. They've basically said that they're gonna move on from him. It makes sense for both. pre and post June 1. I'm not going to say it makes sense for the Rams to trade him. I'm not saying it makes sense for Cooper Kupp to be traded. I'm just saying financially, it kind of makes sense regardless. 2025, they can save 15 million and they're going to eat about 15 million of dead cap. So, it's kind of up in the air. They can save another 5 if they can find a dance partner. So I'm sure they would prefer to trade Cooper Kupp and get some draft capital back. But it's hard to say if that's going to happen. A lot of times, in my opinion, and I guess experience of paying attention, watching, and knowing the NFL for however many years, teams will just play chicken with the Rams and say, you're going to cut them. So why would we send you anything? We all know you're going to cut them. Why would we send you anything? And just play chicken with them. And then they end up cutting them. And then here we are. So, they can cut post June 1, which is probably, going to be where it is. We'll see. But I'm sure they would rather find a dance partner and a trade partner and save themselves another 5 million. We'll see where it lands, but it's almost been, said that they are going to trade or cut Cooper Kupp. So we'll see where he lands, but that's kind of what it looks like financially. Deebo Samuel. So trade or cut post June 1. Either way, it's the same thing. So this is another situation where teams can just play chicken with them and say, hey, you guys, you've already said you don't really want them, whatever. There's been a lot of chatter. So again, that could have come from the Deebo side. That could have come from the team side. It's hard to say, really. They can save another 10 million and then 4.1 million in 2027. So this is a big one for post June 1, right? It's not necessarily this year. Like this year, they're only saving 5.1 million, but next year, 10, and the year after, another 4.1. So that's a total of what, almost $20 million, $19 million over the next 3 years that they could save. Yeah, they're going to eat some dead cap, 10.7 in 2025, right, on Deebo. So we'll see. I think that, again, that's kind of already been made known that it's going to happen one way or another. They might end up having to cut him. So, we could end up with Devontae Adams, Cooper Kupp, Deebo Samuel could all be free agents if they all end up getting cut by their respective teams, which is on the table for all of them. And then I think last but not least, Tyler Lockett. This one's almost a for sure thing. Like I said, with the Seahawks, they structured their contracts where it doesn't matter. They can cut them, they can trade them post June 1, doesn't matter. At any point, they can cut them, trade them, whatever. So I don't think anyone's going to be sending any draft capital to the Seahawks for Tyler Lockett. Just not very likely at all. They can save $17 million in cap space, which they do need if they cut Tyler Lockett. I fully expect that to happen. They're going to eat the almost $14 million to save 17. Makes sense. So I fully expect Tyler Lockett as well to be a free agent. That's another team like, the Kansas City Chiefs. I think he would fit better with Buffalo personally, but a team like that could come in, 1-year deal, cheap money. You want to try to win a Super Bowl, come here and we'll see what happens. So we'll see, but I fully expect Tyler Lockett to not be on the Seahawks in 2026. Moving on to the tight ends. Evan Ingram and Kyle Pitts, 2 very highly, potential trade candidates. I don't think Kyle Pitts gets traded, even though they're going to save 10.8 million and 0 dead cap dollars if they do trade him. Pre or post, doesn't matter at all. If they trade Kyle Pitts, they're saving $10.8 million, which again, they do need to clear some space, but I really don't think that Kyle Pitts is going anywhere. I know it's been thrown out there, but again, like that's something that teams will do. The team probably put that one out there. Oh yeah, Kyle Pitts is on the block, whatever. See what you're going to get in a trade offer, right? If you're getting a first round pick offered for Kyle Pitts, absolutely they're going to take that. No question they'll take that, right? If teams are calling them up, hey, I got a 3rd round pick for you, right? Doesn't make a lot of sense. If they're a team that thinks they're going to the playoffs, wants to go to the playoffs, and I think they're pretty close to being there, right? If they can add a few more pieces, if Penix is that guy, which they fully expect him to be, you're going to need Kyle Pitts. So I think Kyle Pitts actually stays on the Falcons, even though it would make sense to move him. I just don't see it. I just don't see it personally. And that's only in a trade, not if they cut him. If they cut him, I think they eat it all. I think they eat all of this if they cut him. So that's not happening. They might trade him if someone's willing to pony up some draft capital, but we'll see. Evan Ingram is definitely on the board to be traded. It would be a post June 1 designation. There'd be $4 million in dead cap, and they would save $15.4 million. I think that makes a ton of sense given what Brenton Strange did this year, right? And where their roster's at, where their team's at. A team would obviously have to be pretty tight end needy and want to spend the money on Evan Ingram. So we'll see. But I could see them cutting him. I really could. If they can't find a trade partner, I could see Evan Ingram being cut by the Jaguars. I think it makes sense for, honestly, the team. And to be honest, it makes more sense for Evan Ingram. So post June 1, again, I'm sure they would love to find a trade partner, but I don't think that'll happen. Again, teams will just play chicken and say, you're going to cut him if we don't trade for him. $15.4 million versus $4 million dead cap. I think Evan Ingram's going to be a free agent. So if you're stacking up Jaguars and you have Evan Ingram, you might want to think twice about it. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm not saying Evan Ingram's 100% going to be gone. I just think it's highly likely. And then they can save another $6.5 million in both 26, 27 combined if it's a post June 1. So I think it makes sense. I think it makes sense for Evan Ingram to not be on this team. And then, like I said, with Taysom Hill and Foster Moreau, they're on the chopping block, I think, as well for the Saints that need to clear some money. So now let's dig into a couple more things. I got a couple more slides, and then we're going to dig into a draft. So let's talk about some deep sleepers. These are 20th round guys. They're all free. Guys you can look at the end of drafts and put them on your list. Possibly. So Curtis Samuel, like I said earlier in the show, he's going to be on the Bills. Financially, they have to keep him. They need wide receivers anyways. He's familiar with the offense. Curtis Samuel could be on the board if you're stacking Bills, whatever. Jeremy Ruckert could be the starter with the Jets. I think he will be this year. They drafted him in the 3rd round a couple years ago. He showed he can play. I think Jeremy Ruckert starts for the Jets this year as tight end. Not that makes him, highly valuable or anything, but I fully expect him to probably play a role. Devontae Walker, this is a guy you need to put on your list, right? He was being drafted last year as a rookie, and now he's in a much better spot. Like I said, Rashad Bateman and Zay Flowers are the only wide receivers on the roster for the Ravens. And, Devontae, what was he, a 3rd round pick last year? I think he was a 3rd. Right? He's going to get some run, should be on this team. Aguilar's gone. Tylan Wallace is gone, at least, unless they bring him back, which they could, but Devontae Walker's definitely going to get some run. So if you're stacking Lamar Jackson with, you don't get him with Zay Flowers, but let's say you get Mark Andrews, you're not as high on Bateman, whatever. I've been, throwing some shares of Devontae Walker out there personally. Elijah Moore should be near the top of the list here. He's still free. And I'm going to be packing my bags more than I have already, considering his age. First time, free agent. Again, I think the Texans might be a great fit for Elijah Moore. Calvin Austin with the Steelers, Roman Wilson with the Steelers. Again, they're pretty light at wide receiver. I don't know if any free agent wide receivers are going to want to go there. Yeah, they could hit it in the draft, but it's just not super likely. And there's not very many high caliber wide receivers in this draft anyways. 2nd round pick, Roman Wilson, right? Calvin Austin played well last year, so he take another step forward. So those two should be on the radar. Brenton Strange, if they trade Evan Ingram, right? You could pick off some shares right now while it's early and get ahead of it. I think I've gotten them once or twice as my 3rd, maybe even 4th if you're doing 4 tight end builds. Makes sense there. Parker Washington. I don't have Christian Kirk on my list, but he could be traded. It's not very likely. That's why I didn't even have him on the list. But he could be traded. And if he is, then it's kind of wheels up for Parker Washington, in my opinion. Audric Estime, only 22 years old. He's actually 21 right now. He'll be turning 22 years old. He's going to be that thunder piece, that goal line, Mark Ingram type of running back, in my opinion. My bags are fully packed on Audric Estime. I don't particularly see them replacing him. I really don't. We'll see what they do. And if they do in the draft, I'm going to have a hard time with my Audric Estime shares, but I think he'll be fine. Trey Tucker with the Raiders, he's still there. I don't think they'll be able to replace him. He's worth a flyer. Jalen Hyatt, I'm not drafting, but he should, in theory, slide into that Darius Slayton role. We'll see. Will Shipley, Kenny Gainwell, Kenny Gainwell's gone. He's a free agent, so Will Shipley's probably going to move into that RB2 role with the Eagles. Luke McCaffrey, there are two wide receivers under contract with the Washington Commanders. One, I think you can guess, is Terry McLaurin, and the other is rookie last year, Luke McCaffrey. Likely that they do most likely draft a wide receiver. That's probably going to be another outside Z wide receiver. And then Luke McCaffrey is going to be your slot guy. So I've been picking off some shares of Luke McCaffrey. Again, especially if I'm drafting Jaden Daniels, because realistically, it's Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin, and it's really tough to put them together in drafts. Yeah, you could bring in Zach Ertz, but other than that, what are you doing? I see a lot of people doing Diami Brown. I would be looking at Luke McCaffrey instead. I don't know if Diami Brown will be back with this team. And even if he is, I think he probably gets replaced in this draft. And I have a thought about that in the next couple slides here. Marshawn Lloyd, Green Bay Packers. I'm not super high on Josh Jacobs at ADP right now. So if I'm not, then I have to move Marshawn Lloyd up. And he was one of my highest exposed running backs last year as a rookie. I really like him as a player. He should be healthy this year. Look at what Emmanuel Wilson did in a backup role with this team, right? And Marshawn Lloyd should be able to replicate that. Dallin Holker, I really liked him as a rookie. I really liked his tape last year. Older guy, whatever, we can dig into him more if you want, 25. But if they cut Taysom Hill and Foster Moreau, like I think they should, and then Juwan Johnson's out the door as a free agent, right now he's the only tight end on the roster. If they make these two moves, then he's the only remaining tight end. And he played a little bit last year. I like his tape. I think he could get the job done, especially if they're a horrible team. So we'll see what happens. If Taysom Hill and Foster Moreau get cut from this team and Juwan Johnson's gone, I'll be drafting a little bit of Dallin Holker late in drafts, 20th round. Darius Slayton's obviously there as a UFA. Bashal Tutin still is free at the end of drafts. One of my favorite running backs, as you know, if you watch the show. Same thing with Ricky White. Gunnar Helm's still free. Tyler Lockett's free as a UDFA. Jarquez Hunter, another one of my favorite running backs in this class. Josh Palmer's still free at the end of drafts. Very good target, only 26 years old, right? Nick Nash, another guy like Kavontae Turpin, worth talking about. He had a decent season with the Cowboys last year. They don't have Brandon Cooks coming back, right? They have some space. It's Jalen Tolbert, but he might get replaced. We'll see. Turpin could be a guy worth throwing a pick or two at. I'm not drafting him yet, but he's there. Same with Tyler Boyd, Tyler Conklin. They're both free, 20th round guys. All these guys, 20th round guys that are readily available, some are going to have a role. Some are rookies that I really like. A guy like Josh Palmer, Elijah Moore, definitely guys, UDFAs, even Darius Slayton, unrestricted free agents that could go somewhere juicy. Those are some deep sleepers that we got at the last round. Couple more slides. Let's talk about landing spots. So for a quarterback, the Jets, obviously they got some money to spend. Their landing spot. Browns, we'll see. We know the score there. Pittsburgh Steelers, Raiders, Giants all need a quarterback. There's some other teams that might, if they make a trade, whatever. But those are the top landing spots, in my opinion, for a quarterback. And we'll see where it kind of lands with everyone else. Running backs, we got the Browns, the Steelers, if Najee doesn't come back, right? Houston Texans, even with Joe Mixon, he will be on the team, unfortunately for them. But even with Joe Mixon, I'm looking at that as a solid landing spot. Chiefs, Raiders, Chargers are a huge one. Cowboys are right at the top of the list, right? Vikings, and then the Panthers. Even with Chuba Hubbard, I think they can bring in a rookie, and he's going to at least be, the number 2. Wide receivers, we got the Bills, obviously. Bengals, obviously. Texans, I think, are high on that list. Titans, Chiefs are very high on that list. Raiders, Chargers, Cowboys, Commanders, obviously very high on the list as well. Packers, if they move on from a Romeo Doubs, right? I think that makes sense to do that. And then Christian Watson's injured. We'll see where it lands, but that's definitely a top landing spot. Carolina Panthers, again, if they mutually part ways with Adam Thielen, which is on the board, I think that's a decent landing spot. Saints, Bucks, Cardinals are a high priority. And then the Rams as well with Cooper Kupp kind of leaving. So tight ends, we got the Bengals, Colts, Broncos, Chargers, Commanders, Saints are all pretty high on the list. Again, the Saints will depend on those two on the roster right now. Commanders, if Ertz, if Gesicki doesn't come back, that sort of thing. Broncos are probably at the top of the list here. So couple chats here. Fantasy Football Garage, we got the Candyman in the chat. What's happening, man? Raiders could be a great spot. Chargers, no doubt, for sure. Absolutely. Raiders are begging for a running back, and I think it's almost 100% that one of those Ohio State running backs join Chip Kelly. It's either going to be Trevion Henderson or Quinshon Judkins with the Raiders, in my opinion. Almost for sure. Almost 100%. I've seen a lot of mocks with Texans getting a day 2 wide receiver. Yeah, that's almost another certainty. They kind of have to, unless, again, Elijah Moore, I think, makes a lot of sense for that offense. So that could be a great landing spot. I'm going to dig into that more before I put it on this next slide that I'm going to pull up right now, which I might put on there for Elijah Moore. So a couple draft fits, and I'm going to put some free agents on here as well. So Ricky White to the LA Chargers. Why do I think that? They need a wide receiver, obviously, especially a Z wide receiver. Harbaugh seems to like guys that tear it up against the Michigan Wolverines, right? Look at the Quentin Johnston, what he did in the college football playoffs against Michigan. I sell tires, so there you go. It's Michelin. What Quentin Johnston did to the Michigan Wolverines in the 2022 college football playoffs, right? He was raving about him when he went to the Chargers. He had 8 catches, 196 yards, and a touchdown versus Michigan as a true freshman at Michigan State. And he's a dog. He can play on special teams, wants to play on special teams. I think that'd be a good fit. 3rd or 4th round capital, something like that. Not super high draft capital, but I think it makes sense for Ricky White to go to the Chargers. Jack Besh to the Washington Commanders. I think that makes perfect sense. Again, you got Terry McLaurin, Jack Besh, and then Luke McCaffrey in the slot. Only 2 wide receivers on the current roster, like I just said, McCaffrey and Terry McLaurin. Played with Jaden Daniels at LSU, right? And when he was a true freshman, so Jack Besh was a true freshman, played at LSU, he outpaced Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr., Trey Palmer, who's in the NFL right now, right? Like, he outpaced those guys as a true freshman. I'm not saying he's a better wide receiver than any of those guys. I would say that about Trey Palmer for sure, but I'm not saying he's better than Neighbors. I'm not saying he's better than Brian Thomas Jr. I'm just saying as a true freshman, he had a better season than both of those guys at LSU. So he played with Daniels. I think he's a perfect fit in that offense. 2nd round pick 61. They might have to move up. I think he goes higher than that. I don't know if he'd be a 1st round guy. It's close. I'm a big Jack Besh believer and fan personally. Dude's a dog. He is really well put together. But I don't know if they'd be able to get him at pick 61. So if they want him, they might have to move up. Quinshon Judkins to the Chicago Bears. Ben Johnson needs his David Montgomery. That's my comp. That was one of my comps for Judkins. I said he was anywhere between my comp for Quinshon Judkins was between David Montgomery and Marshawn Lynch. Marshawn Lynch, the Seattle Seahawks running back, right? Somewhere in there. And he needs his David Montgomery to pair with DeAndre Swift, right? They have the 10th overall pick, the 39th, and the 41st. I do not think they pick him 10th overall. But with, in the 2nd round with pick 39, 41, I think it makes sense to bring in a guy like Quinshon Judkins, have that kind of 1-2 punch in the running back room. I do not think that Roschon Johnson is it. This will be his 3rd season, and he's really not shown us enough, in my opinion. So I think you could bring in Judkins there, and I think it'd make a lot of sense. Ben Johnson with the Detroit Lions, I think that makes sense. So last one was Ollie Gordon with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I haven't written it up why yet. My comp for Ollie Gordon was Le'Veon Bell. runs patiently like that. Definitely a big body guy, very similar in my opinion to Le'Veon. I think it makes a lot of sense. Let Najee walk, bring in Ollie Gordon, pair him up with Jaylen Warren, and there you go. So yeah, I'm going to continue to build this out. If you're in the chat, hit that like button, guys. I put a shitload of work into this. So hopefully you get some stuff out of it. Let me know in the chat. Let me know in the comments below if you're watching after the fact. Let me know what you think. If you agree, disagree, I really appreciate the comments and everything like that. Hit that like button if you don't mind. Like I said, I work my absolute ass off. That's why there was a few days we haven't streamed since Tuesday, because I've been doing this. So this is the kind of work that I put in. So hopefully you appreciate it. And it gets you some value. So I'll keep filling this one out because I just like to look at different things. I'll probably have some free agents in here as well as other rookies. Landing spots, that's pretty much set in stone. Sleepers are pretty much there. This is pretty much done, the keep, trade, cut sort of thing. Free agents, they'll, if guys get cut, they're free agents, whatever. And then team needs, that'll probably stay pretty much there. So that's that. We're going to get into a draft. Let's put this stuff into practice now, right? Let's jump into a little drafty poo. So yeah, like I said, hit that like button for me, guys, if you don't mind. Put a lot of work into that, and hopefully you like it. Hopefully you like it. Appreciate that, man. I'll absolutely reference these spreadsheets. Nice effing work here. Appreciate that, man. Yeah, put a lot of work in, and hopefully, like I said, if you get some value, that's all I really hope for. Hopefully it works. If it makes sense for you, works for you. I'll be happy to share it again as well. If we want to go over that during a stream, I'd be happy to share it again. I don't mind. I do have to fill out a few more things. Still working on my rankings too, by the way. Which I really need to get finished, but it's hard to do everything. You know what I mean? It's hard to get everything all at once, sort of thing. But I have started digging into the quarterbacks, and I don't particularly love what I'm seeing. If I'm being honest, I've only dug into Milroe, Cam Ward a little bit, Jackson Dart a little bit, but I need to get into both of those, Ward and Jackson Dart, a little bit more. But let's jump into a draft. Let's do a big board. Unless someone wants specifically to do something different. I'm saving my last two bullets in the war room, my last two bullets in the biggest board, and my last two bullets in the bigger board until at least after the combine and probably free agency. I'm saving those bullets as long as I can. The war room's filling up, but it's only 4 max, so it doesn't fill fast. And I have 2 more bullets remaining. I'm gonna wait as long as I can before I finish those up. The Huron River Rat, Jason Calhoun says a little board. Let's do a little board. Let's do a little board. I'm jumping in now, so hopefully it's not full already. Waiting on 5, so tons of room. Tons of room if you want to get in. So yeah, in future streams, if you want to see the spreadsheets, just let me know. We can pull it up. We can dig through it again. We can dig. Oh, excuse me. We can dig through depth charts together. We can do whatever. Obviously, we can do whatever. Jason's in. So let me know if you want to pull those up. Dig into spreadsheets. Dig into depth charts. Talk about cap stuff. Whatever. That's the kind of stuff that really gets me going. I love talking about cap stuff. Actual possibilities. We're towards the end of the draft together, so that's good. That'll be fun. Don't really recognize anyone else. If you're in the chat and you're drafting, let me know. Don't just be nervous and lurk out. Let's change this to the little board so we're up to date on our exposures in this tournament. But yeah, that's the stuff I really like to do, especially this time of year where it drives me nuts. It drives me absolutely crazy listening to people on Twitter just spew absolute, utter nonsense when it's like, it's clear that you haven't even looked into any of this. Is it possible? Is it even possible for something like that to happen? You know, like trading, let's trade Deshaun Watson. Never in a million years is that ever going to happen, ever. Never, ever, ever would that ever happen. Deshaun Watson will never get traded. So, like, stuff like that's just not possible at all. So let's be real here is all I ask. And it just drives me nuts when people think we're playing Madden over here and you can just force a trade through or something. Like, it just doesn't happen. It's not possible. Make it make sense. If you want to bring scenarios, absolutely. I love it. I love to talk about that stuff. If it's realistic and if it's possible, if it makes sense, right? That's why I hate this time of year. I love this time of year, but I hate it at the same time because it's just madness. But either way, we're drafting. It's Saturday night. We're having fun. Let's dig into it. Hopefully you guys, got some value out of that. It was really, really good. I like doing that. I do that stuff every year. I just don't show it, all of it every year. So there you go. Happy to share it this year. Let me know if you want to pull it up again. I got to finish my rankings though before I show that again. I will. That's coming in the next week or two. I got to dig into the quarterbacks. Couple tight ends I got to dig into. Jalen Conyers is a name that I want to take a serious look at. Another former quarterback type of tight end, but I'll get into that one. And then quarterbacks, and I got to settle on some of these rankings for these wide receivers. The wide receivers are really hard to rank this year. It's a lot like the running backs last year. The wide receivers I ranked 1 through 10, easy, no problem. It all made sense. I put it all together. Same thing this year. Running backs, boom, 1 through 10, all makes sense. I love it. I'm happy with it. Last year I didn't even rank the running backs. This year I might not rank the wide receivers. I probably will just to make it happen, but I want to take Neighbors here, but man, let's just take Neighbors. I got to even it out. There's only 50, it's a 50 max tournament. So you got to try to even out your exposures a little bit. So force it in when you have to. So I'll take Neighbors. Although I would rather Amon-Ra in my rankings. Amon-Ra's higher by like 1, so it's not the end of the world. But getting Amon-Ra at 11 is pretty juicy. Well, 1.6 to ADP. Jason goes Derrick Henry. Still 0% Ashton Genty. 0% McCaffrey. I will get some McCaffrey. Don't get me wrong. I will get some McCaffrey. I'm not like out on Christian McCaffrey. I'm not necessarily out on Genty. I just think his price is a little too high. But I don't think McCaffrey's going anywhere ADP wise. So I can get my exposure whenever I want, really. What are we doing here? I think it's got to be I'm going to bump it up even more. I'm taking a ton of Tyreek Hill, 29% total, 28 in this. Like Tyreek Hill is just still super mispriced for me. And I'm going to keep eating up all the shares I can get in the early second round, early second round, late second round, whatever. If I can get Tyreek Hill in the second round, I'm pretty much going to be taking him almost every time. So yeah, I think that's why I haven't taken a ton of like even Genty or McCaffrey or Bowers much, AJ Brown. I don't think these guys are going to move at all. And I think Tyreek will. I really do. I really don't mind the Dolphins this year offensively. I need to get a little more Jalen Wright. Speaking of Tyreek, only 4%, 0% in this tournament. So I might look at Jalen Wright in this. It's mostly because I'm not trying to pair up Jalen Wright with Tyreek. That's why I don't have a ton of exposure, but I need to force it in. I really do. Tyreek Hill did an interview the other day where it was someone asked him who's like a breakout candidate, who's someone for people to keep an eye on in fantasy with the Miami Dolphins. Who did he say? Jalen Wright. Obviously, they just cut Mostert. They just cut Raheem Mostert, which it was inevitable. It was definitely going to happen. He's kind of aged out. So now he's the 100% number 2. But if anything should happen to a 5'9", 180, Devon Achane, then it's kind of wheels up for Jalen Wright. So if I'm you, and if you're not drafting a crazy amount of Tyreek Hill like I am, I'd be mixing in a lot more Jalen Wright as, obviously he's a bit of a handcuff, but he could be a league winner type of a handcuff if something should happen to Devon Achane, who's, not the most sizable running back in the league. So we'll see what happens there. Jackson Smith and Jigba, still super high on my ranks. I need to get a little more exposure to Garrett Wilson. It's just a concern with who the quarterback's going to be, obviously, but he should go back to being that massive target hog. And realistically, like, his targets have been there. His catches have gone up every year. His yards have been there. His touchdowns are getting there at 7. But he should be that, he should go back to being that massive target hog. He could get up to, 180 targets this year with Devontae Adams almost 100% off this team. Allen Lazard almost 100% off this team. Even Tyler Conklin probably not coming back. He's a free agent. I need to get a little more Garrett Wilson in my life. He just kind of goes at an odd spot. Realistically, this is the weirdest spot. I've ranked 31 players, and I just redid it today. So I redid my rankings, and I got to keep going past that point because it gets really weird when it gets to James Cook, DJ Moore, Kyron Williams, right? All of these guys, it gets really weird right around this point in the draft. Pick your poison. You can go a lot of different directions. It's a weird spot, and it's really hard to rank this portion of the draft. In my opinion, maybe I'm wrong, but in my opinion, it's really tough to rank that. I would have definitely taken Lamar there. That's for sure. So then again, like, where do I go now? Where do I go? It's really it's a really tough spot in the draft. It really is. I'm going to go Mike Evans. I have 0%, and I don't like that. I'm going to force him in. Only 2% overall. That's pretty unacceptable. Let's get Mike Evans in the world here in our lives. I'm really trying to focus on doing that, when it's guys that I know are good, I like, they're in a good spot, like, it makes sense to draft them, take them, force them in. I didn't do that last year with Mike Evans, and I'm going to do that even though he's another year older. He's still on the Buccaneers. It's still Baker Mayfield. It's the same offense. Obviously, Liam Cohen's gone, but Grizzard, I think is his name, internal hire, right? So let's bring him in, and then he's easy to stack up too. Wow, Chuba goes really early. This guy's obviously focusing on running backs. Interesting. Not sure I would get behind that personally. I kind of want to go Jane Daniels here, but let's bring in Marvin. Maybe I should have went Jalen Hurts and Devontae Smith there, actually. It's probably what I should have done right here with the Malik Neighbors. Conference, division rival, same conference. Probably should have went with the Philly side there where you can kind of double tap it. That's all right. You do have to kind of reach for both of them. I don't know if I wouldn't call it a reach, but you kind of have to. This is an interesting one. Lamar Jackson and Jane Daniels, Nico Collins and Ashton Genty. I'm not a massive fan of that, but he's got goat horns, so he knows what he's doing. That's an interesting build, though. Hopefully he's done at quarterback. If he's not, I will not like that. If he drafts another quarterback, I don't like it. I don't like it. So hopefully he stops at 2. but we'll see. I don't mind that. Some people would turn their nose up to it, but I actually think it's perfectly viable as long as you stop at the 2 here. Piss and yellow to start. Piss and yellow to start. Interesting. I probably should have went, quarterback here, but that's okay. Probably should have went Jalen Hurts and Devontae Smith, but that's okay. 3 straight running backs in the one spot. Yeah, I guess that's okay. I mean, I would have went Breece Hall and JSN instead of Josh Jacobs, probably, if it were me, but I can't fault you for that. We'll see how far he goes down the running back path after this. Jason starts Derrick Henry, Drake London, who I love. I'm a big Drake London guy this year. I might have taken Drake London over Tyreek if he were there. James Cook and DJ Moore. Yeah. I don't hate that at all. I don't hate that start. Puka Bowers and Josh Allen. Don't mind that. Devontae Smith. That's a nice start. That is a nice start. Tet McMillan, I just can't get behind. I just am going to be 0% if he's a 4th round pick. I'm just not high enough on him. I'm just not. I saw somebody, I can't remember who or what it was, but I saw a mock draft where they had Tet McMillan going to the Arizona Cardinals. It's a good landing spot. Makes sense. He's a local kid. That does make tons of sense. I could see that. And they need a wide receiver. So I could definitely see the Cardinals, drafting Tet McMillan. But is that going to make him a 4th round pick? If the answer is anything but absolutely not, then I'm wrong. Because I'm not, especially like if he gets drafted by the Arizona Cardinals, where does he go? Throw it in the chat. Where does Tet McMillan go if he gets drafted by the Cardinals? What round are you taking Tet McMillan in? For me, man, probably maybe in this range. And even maybe lower. Yeah. The 11th round, 11th, 12th round is where he would fall for me. Maybe even lower. The third option in a lighter passing offense. I'm pretty much out on Tet McMillan at this price. I have 0% as it sits right now, I believe. 0% total on Tet McMillan. I just can't do it. I can't do it at that price. And the potential that he goes to Arizona, which is pretty on the table. They're right around that range where he could go in the draft, and local kid, right? It's very possible. Where are we going to go here? Kenny Walker would have been at the top of my list. I think it makes the most sense to take David Montgomery in this range. My bags are fully packed on Trevion Henderson. If you watch this show, you know how big of a fan I am of him. Almost 50% in this tournament where I've drafted 25. This is my 26th draft. And I'm almost 50% on Trevion. So I need to get in a little more David Montgomery, who I think is super live for 1,000 total yards and 10 plus touchdowns like he's done for the past however many years, right? 2 years, but fully live to do it again. 1,000 plus, 10 plus. I'll take it. Jason takes Trevion, takes it off the board for me, which is fine. I'm actually happy to see him go, so I don't have to draft him because I probably would right here. I really don't like Pickens at this price. If he falls a bunch, I'll take him. I would probably take Cortland Sutton over him. Let's bring in, it seems weird, but I'm going to bring in some Jayden Reed. I'm starting to get a little higher on Jayden Reed for a couple reasons. Let's see, where is it? It should make sense. Yeah. So for a couple reasons in this range of the draft right here, I think it makes a lot of sense to take a Jayden Reed. For a couple reasons. Okay, so we talked about Romeo Doubs when we were blowing through the spreadsheets there, right? We're talking about Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson as well. So if Romeo Doubs gets cut, which is very live in my opinion, if he gets cut and Christian Watson's injured, Jayden Reed, it's kind of wheels up, right? A little bit. I'm a big fan of Jayden Reed. I like how he plays, and it makes sense to get him the ball more. Especially again, like I said, in this range. And then another thing, like I talked about, I think it was the last stream, hard to remember, but I talked about it a few streams ago, where when I'm at the back end of the draft here, right around here, 106, right at, if I'm the 10, 11, 12 pick, right around here, if, I've missed out on some stacks or I just want to, open some doors, whatever, I like to go Jordan Love and then bring it back with Tucker Kraft, which makes tons of sense to do. So if you take a guy like Jayden Reed right around here, then you can double stack Packers, right? Which I like. It's a good offense. I like to do that when I've missed out, like I said. So if, let's say I have no stacks and I've just taken the best player available, just taking good players. I have some doors open maybe, but I've taken, good players. I have no stacks. The back end of the draft right around here, 106, 111, 105, 112, whatever, right around here, I take Jordan Love and then get Tucker Kraft on the wraparound, and then you can bring it back with Dontavion Wicks late, right? So that's kind of what I do if I'm at the back end of the draft. So if I'm in this range and I'm kind of undecided on who to pick, I'm lower on George Pickens. I would take Cortland Sutton, but it's hard to get him with Nix unless you want to reach. I have a ton of Bo Nix, don't get me wrong. But Chris Godwin, George Pickens, Chris Olave, get a little exposure to Jayden Reed and then wrap it up with Jordan Love and Tucker Kraft. We'll see where it lands, but yeah, that's kind of just something I've been picking away at a little bit. I'm at like 6%, so it's nothing crazy. I just want to get a little bit of exposure, a little more to that Packers draft. Pat, how are you, man? I saw you were streaming. Did you wrap it up early? It's a long stream, a little bit of a long one. This is the first draft, believe it or not, but appreciate you coming out. Hopefully I couldn't watch the show. I'll watch it back though. Appreciate you coming in. I'll watch it back at 1.5. That's for sure. But it also opens the door, again, taking the Mike Evans where I did, opens the door, Jalen McMillan, Baker Mayfield, right? You can always bring in a late Cade Otton, who's a huge value in my opinion. Just a single one. Yeah, this is my first draft. Oddly enough, we're an hour and a half in, and this is the first draft I've done. Maybe watch it back, and if you do, let me know what you think. It's a lot of stuff earlier in the stream. Pick 82. Where are we going? I'd like to go running back. Tony Pollard makes a lot of sense. Jalen Ward makes a lot of sense. If they're not there, then it's obviously going to be wide receiver. Or I could bring in, Jalen McMillan with Baker Mayfield. Could go down that road. Mac McClung, 3-peats as the dunk champ. Good for him. There goes Bo Nix. So there you go. If I went Sutton, which is probably who he drafted, unless he, oh wow, why would you pass up on Nix here? Why would you do that? Rookie fever? I don't know. It just doesn't make sense. Cortland Sutton, bring in Bo Nix, unless you're trying to push him. It's pretty risky. It's pretty risky. So I've got a few options. I could go Jalen McMillan, bring it in with Baker Mayfield, which, does make some sense. But I'm falling behind at running back here. So between Pollard and Jalen Warren, I do like Pollard a lot, especially in that Tennessee offense with Callahan still there, the offensive line coach, Brian's pops. So let's go Pollard. If Warren is there, I probably do take Warren as well. This guy probably brings in Baker Mayfield when he drafts Jalen McMillan there. Hell yeah, a little solo pod. So he probably brings in Baker Mayfield to get himself stacked up, and then he still has the option to bring in Kate Otten. Jason goes Caleb to bring in with DJ Moore. Cole Kmet still on the board, rookie potentially. If you want to bring in Keenan Allen, you can, but I feel like Keenan might move on. Again, I think my Bengals would be a wonderful spot for Keenan Allen. I think that makes a ton of sense, but we'll see if that happens for my squad. For my guys, if this guy doesn't take Jalen Warren, I'm going to go down that road. Hopefully he's not in the chat, in the stream, and wants to snipe me for no good reason, but he should go Baker. No quarterbacks yet. Kate Otten makes sense with Laporta. Pairs up nicely. Goes J.K. Dobbins. All right. Huge reach. 15 picks ahead of ADP. I cannot get behind that, especially when you've already, you reached on Chuba. You get unique, I guess. Goes Chris Godwin and McMillan, and then passes up on Baker. Interesting. Let's bring in Jalen Warren. Not that Godwin's 100% going to be back with the Bucs, but he very well could be. So I don't know. I don't know about that one. Decision making is questionable on that one. So far, David Montgomery, Tony Pollard, Jalen Warren. I think I've caught up at running back. Very happy with my wide receiver room. Neighbors, Tyreek Hill, Mike Evans, Marvin Harrison, and Jaden Reed. Obviously, I'm quarterback needy, which isn't the end of the world. And this guy didn't even bring in a golf share with Laporta. What are we doing here? That's really risky. Badgeless drafter. That's really, really risky what you're doing, pal. Gets a gift of a Monrod 11. And then Kyron at 35 is fine, I think. That's behind ADP. I'm right at. That's okay. But then reaches on Chuba. Brings in Laporta to pair up with Amon-Ra. I like that. Fine with this. Brings in McMillan. And that just doesn't make a lot of sense. Doesn't make a lot of sense, but that's all right. Maybe I'm completely wrong. You always got to leave that possibility on the table, right? Interesting. This guy's probably looking to go Brock Purdy, which would make a lot of sense. I don't mind the start at all. Ted McMillan, not for me at that price at all. We just, kind of spoke ad nauseum on that one. So he's not for me at that price at all. Like the George Kittle click, don't mind Juwan Jennings, especially when you get Pearsall that late. That's got to be a bunch behind ADP. Yeah. 8 picks after ADP. That's really nice. Evened it out with Jennings. I'm probably going to be Pearsall over Juwan Jennings, if I'm being honest. 10 picks difference in ADP. I think this is going to close up, especially let's say Debo gets traded, right? Which is very, very live. We just talked about it in the spreadsheets, right? If Debo gets traded, And then he gets sniped. Ouch. To the Brandon Ayuk drafter. That's why you don't push it, man. Right at ADP. Like if you're going to reach on Jennings, and then, after Kittle, like unfortunately you have to take him here. And if Ricky Pearsall falls more, he falls more, whatever. That's interesting. I mean, you're still, if you can try to find a way to pair up with like, I don't know, Seattle or I guess Arizona. Like if you have Ted McMillan with Arizona, but Kyler's gone, so whatever. This puts this drafter in a tough spot. It really does. When Brock Purdy goes, I think you just got to take him there and concede Ricky Pearsall. Yeah, it would be nice to get that kind of full 49ers wrap, but how likely is that to happen? It's especially in the big boards, man. It's just really less and less likely that stuff like that happens. I just personally think it's like get your guys season always in the big board and fill out your stack season. Yeah. That's kind of the way I play it. Because then Jared Goff goes, right? I guess Baker Mayfield's still on the table for this drafter. Goff is not. Baker Mayfield is, but I could easily take Baker Mayfield, and there he goes anyways. But I could take him as the Mike Evans drafter, right? Interesting stuff. So let's bring in Jordan Love to pair up with my Jaden Reed. It's a big reason why I took him where I took him. Big fan of Zach Charbonnet personally, but it's an interesting spot. I need to get more DeAndre Swift, even though, like I said in the spreadsheet chatter there, right? I think Quinshon Judkins, perfect fit in that Bears offense, gets you your David Montgomery to a very, very poor man's Jahmyr Gibbs in DeAndre Swift. But you could put a mask on him and call him Jahmyr Gibbs, I guess. And Brian Robinson, probably more valuable than Charbonnet, just as far as situation is concerned. But talent, honestly, give me Charbonnet talent-wise. But again, situation is the biggest factor here. We're going to bring in, and like I said, it's get your guys season. That's the whole reason, like I just talked about. Let's make it happen. Bring in Tucker Kraft. And then I'm double stacked with Jordan Love. Spent the appropriate capital, like six picks, half round to ADP, reach, if you want to call it that, on Jaden Reed, in just such a weird spot, just a weird range of the draft, in my opinion. So I don't mind doing that a little bit. I have enough, like I said, where I bring in Jordan Love, then Tucker Kraft, and then a late Dontavion Wicks. But I want to mix in some Jaden Reed in that double stack to kind of even that out, even out the exposure there. Could I be wrong? Yeah, of course. But I like the offense. I like Jordan Love to kind of bounce back and be fully healthy, hopefully. And the offensive line is in a good spot. Yeah. Give me some Packers at cost. Absolutely. Especially, like I said, if Romeo Doubs is not on this team, Christian Watson is hurt. Give me some more Jaden Reed, man. So where are we at? This drafter's fallen way behind at quarterback, which is not a good strategy in the big board, in my opinion. Like you could say, I suppose, is overkill. I think it's perfectly fine to go Lamar and Jaden Daniels. As long as you're done. You got to catch up where you can. He's kind of done that with Waddle and Pickens. Sure, got a huge amount of value on Pickens. That's right around where I might take him. I would probably take Cortland Sutton over Pickens, but that's okay. Brings in Mark Andrews. That's good value there in your tight end room to catch up. I don't like Travis Etienne, but that's fine. He's done an okay job. And again, he's got the goat horn, so he knows what he's doing. It's a good drafter. I'm all right with that. As long as he doesn't draft another quarterback. See where Jason's at. Took my Travion Henderson, took it off the table for me, which is fine. My bags are absolutely stuffed, and I'll keep packing them. He is rising up the board, though. He absolutely is. You used to be able to get him, mid to late 7th round, and now like here early 6th all the time. I might start to tap out if he gets mid 5th. I like him over Hampton, but it's really close, so whatever. In a vacuum, I'd take him over David Montgomery, depending on your build. Like with what I did, if 4 straight wide receivers, give me David Montgomery over Travion. But let's say I'm, I don't know, here, and I like right here, pick 5, maybe 4, and I get Jahmyr Gibbs or Bijan or Barkley if I'm 5 or 6, something like that. And I'm pick 68 or 67 and I've pissed yellow in between. Yeah, give me Travion. That's the perfect time to take him as your RB2. It's tough to kind of swallow him as your RB1, really, even though y'all know how much I love me some Travion Henderson. Pretty hard to swallow as your RB1. So just depends on your build. It really depends on your build. So this guy brings in Drake May. That's a good quarterback to bring in when you got robbed a little bit. Dual threat, bring in those Drake Mays, Anthony Richardson, Justin Fields, those types of quarterbacks you can bring in, and you don't have to stack, right? You can, but you don't have to. We don't even know for Justin Fields. Honestly, I don't think he goes back to Pittsburgh. I wouldn't. If I'm Justin Fields, I'd say, fuck you guys. I'm not coming back. Keep me if I were the starter, yeah, all right. I proved myself as a starter. Give me a contract. Everybody's happy. You guys pulled me for old man Wilson. Like, all I did was win. And I was a company man. I did what I was told, put on a smile. Fuck you guys, I'm out of here. That's what I would say if I were Justin Fields. And he should get a contract from somebody. If anybody earned themselves some money in the quarterback room last year, it was Justin Fields by doing what he did early and then not playing, right? I digress, but yeah. And if I'm Justin Fields, I tell the Steelers to go fuck themselves. That's what I do. And I go somewhere else. But we'll see what he does. We'll see what he does. Where are we at here? Jeez. Huge value on Goddard, but that doesn't make sense for me. Even though it's a huge amount of value there. I don't think that makes a ton of sense personally. I could go Tua, but let's bring in Trevor Lawrence. I need to up this exposure. 4% and 4%. 4% in this tournament, 4% overall. Let's bring him in. It's another guy you can kind of backstack. And I really, really, like I said with the spreadsheets, I really don't expect Evan Ingram to be a Jaguar this year. I really don't. Whether it's a trade or they cut him, I really don't expect it. 2 times Justin Fields says that to the Steelers. At least 2 times. I really just don't expect Evan Ingram to be back. I don't think it makes sense. If they can't find a dance partner, if they can't find a trade partner, I think they cut him. I really, really do. And I might just lean into that take in this draft. Jason gets a massive amount of value on Goddard. That makes a lot of sense there as your first tight end. So I'll take Christian Kirk. I think it's possible that Christian Kirk gets traded, but not very likely. Possible, but not very likely. He's literally next door neighbors. People might not know this either. He's literally next door neighbors with Trevor Lawrence. Doug Peterson is also a neighbor of both of them, but he's obviously not the coach anymore. So whatever. But yeah, they're literally next door neighbors. They're really good friends, obviously. And the contract it's super close where it even would make sense to do it. Whereas with Evan Ingram, it makes sense for him to be gone. It very much makes sense. So I think he'll be gone. But with Kirk, it's too close, and I just let's lean in that Kirk is on the team and Ingram is not. And that opens the door for Bretton Strange for us. I like Kraft. I do need to obviously bring in another, like, I don't know, relatively high value, high floor, most importantly, high floor type of a tight end. I think makes the most sense. Like if I could get like a falling Jake Ferguson, I would take Pitts with the 0% right now. I think that makes sense here. Kate Otten, even with Mike Evans, might make sense. Freiermuth could make some sense. Yeah, someone like Freiermuth, yeah, perfect. A high floor type of a tight end, and then I could bring in Bretton Strange. Like if one of these tight ends fall to me, then I can pull the trigger and then kind of, yeah, take it from there. But let's lean into that take. I really just don't think that Evan Ingram's going to be back. I really don't. Jason's probably watching the hockey game, I'd imagine. I should probably be doing that. Looks, oh, they're up 3-1. 3 fights to start the game, too, by the way. That's wild. A little bit of tension between our two loving countries, isn't there? 3-1 for the States, man. There's going to be riots in the streets in Canada. That's unacceptable. Unacceptable. It's only the Four Nations Cup, though. That's the first loss by Sidney Crosby as team captain. P.S. First loss for Team Canada when Sidney Crosby is the captain of the team. That's the first loss. If they end up losing, which there's a minute left. So, yeah, it's pretty much over. But that's all right. It's only the Four Nations Cup. It's not like it's the Olympics. Pat's on board. That's fine. That's fine. It's only the Four Nations. If it were the Olympics, I'd be a little more butthurt. We'll be all right. Canada's pretty good at hockey. Mind you, the U.S. are getting a hell of a lot better. They've caught up pretty much completely, for sure. So it's a lot more, there's a lot more parity in hockey these days. Like those Four Nations, even like Finland, Sweden, right? Finland just beat Sweden. That's kind of different. Way more parity. It used to be basically Canada, Russia, and that was pretty much it for a long time. And then, once in a while, the Sweden, Czech, maybe Finland, right? The States maybe would pick off some wins here and there, sort of thing. But now it's pretty on par everywhere. So, yeah, I probably should have watched that, but I had to stream. I had to get back in the streets tonight. So, win Thriller over Host to book spot in championship game. Womp womp. That's all right. McDavid's goal. Yeah, I heard it was a cheeky little backhand. But, oh well. It's only the Four Nations Cup. We'll get you back at the Olympics. Where are we? Let's get back to the draft. Mahomes and Justin Herbert. This is a football show. It's not a hockey show. Kyle Pitts goes, saves me from myself. Josh Allen and Stroud. I would be done at quarterback there. Goff and Murray. Could add a late one if you want. Bryce Young, Baker Mayfield, Bo Nix. I would be done there. Lamar and Jane Daniels. I would be done there. This is the drafter for a quarterback right now. Takes Blake Corum. These two guys should be done. So I will be adding Justin Fields share if unless he gets taken. 0% Cam Ward. I'm probably going to stay there. We'll see. I got to dig into tape a little bit more, but I watched a little bit and I'm seeing a little Caleb Williams where he's running around doing 3 pirouettes, throwing off his back foot, that sort of stuff. I didn't love it. He's got a strong arm. Don't get me wrong. Pocket presence, not great. He just ducks out the back door and goes for a run. I don't like that. I need to watch more. Don't get me wrong. I still need to watch some, but I didn't particularly love what I saw, if I'm being honest. So let's go Justin Fields there. 4 spot with the naked Dak. Let's take a look at that in a second here after I make this second pick. That's a weird one. I don't know why. You see a lot of that right now where guys are just drafting fantasy teams instead of best ball teams. You see, I'm going to assume he's badgeless. Oh, naked Dak. He got sniped. He got sniped on Brock Purdy. So he's kind of pissed off at the world, I think, and just trying to catch up. Took naked Drake London or Drake May, naked Dak, naked JJ McCarthy, right? He's just trying to catch up. I think he's a decent drafter. He just got a little greedy with Pearsall there when he should have just taken Brock Purdy. I would have taken Pat Freiermuth there, but he's gone. Kate Otten's still on the board, but I don't think I need to force that. Let's bring in let's bring in Dunn at quarterback. Let's bring in a Jalen Wright share. I have 0. I don't particularly completely love it when I have Tyreek Hill, but that's okay. If I think the defense is going to be garbage, which I do, I think they have to score some points. And now Jalen Wright's the direct, complete handcuff to, a 5'9", 180-pound Devon Achane. So I need to get more. I have 0% as it sits right now in this tournament, and I'm only 4% total. So give me some more Jalen Wright in my life. Yeah. This guy, the 4-hole, he's just pissed off at the world a little bit. It happens. Happens to the best of us. When you get sniped. He got a little greedy, though. Shouldn't do it. Like I said, especially in these big boards. It's just not the way to go. And Dak has just a massive amount of value to me right now with where he's going. Right at ADP. It's been pretty obvious. It goes back further than this, but on again, off again, on again, off again, right? Off again, on again, off again, on again, off again, right? What do you think happens this year? In theory, hopefully, he has a big year, and it's completely on the table as it always is, right? So I'm buying Dak Prescott when you could get this result. You can get this result. Yeah, you could get this result, but I'm willing to take that risk with where the quarterbacks that are going around him. Give me Dak Prescott every time over Justin Herbert, over CJ Stroud, over Lawrence, over Richardson, over Penix, over Drake May. Drake May is closer for sure than any of those other guys, but give me Dak Prescott over pretty much all of these guys. So, yeah. He's right there with what's the difference if Dak Prescott's healthy all year, right? What's the difference between Dak Prescott and Jared Goff, Baker Mayfield, Jordan Love, Brock Purdy? I would probably put Dak Prescott over Brock Purdy as far as fantasy points are concerned if he's healthy all year. So, yeah, give me Dak Prescott at ADP for sure. Even if I'm taking him naked and then just backing it up with rookies, You could take Jalen Tolbert if you like him. You could take Kevontae Turpin like we talked about in the spreadsheets. But you could just take him naked for sure if you have to. I don't know if this guy had to, but with where he's at, yeah. Yeah, sure. I'm all right with that. I'm done at quarterback 100%. Maybe I stop at 7 wide receivers and I add in another tight end. That's very live. So I go 3, 6, 7, 4. That's very, very live. I'm fine with my quarterback room for sure. I'm okay with my running back room. I'm gonna fire in a couple rookies to wrap this up, most likely. And then just one more wide receiver to finish out my room, and then just pile on some late round tight ends. Lots of value, lots of rookies, lots of veteran value, in my opinion. Don't need Schultz. He's there. He's perfectly viable. He will absolutely be on that team with the Texans, and he will absolutely have a role. I am a touch concerned about Cade Stover. Don't get me wrong. That is a little bit of a concern with the CJ Stroud to Cade Stover, Ohio State connection, right? And he did get some looks. He did get some targets. He did get some run as a rookie. So I am a little concerned about Cade Stover eating into Dalton Schultz. Just depends on where you get him. Schultz is just a catch and fall down wide receiver or running back. Jesus, tight end. He's a catch and fall down tight end. Like his yards after catch are abysmal. 80 ADOT, his average depth of target. Excuse me, his average depth of target is abysmal. So I'm a little concerned about Cade Stover eating in there. Harold Fannin can make some sense here. Yoshi Voss, I'm good. Bags are kind of packed in this tournament. Wandale, I'm okay. I guess I could take Braylon. I'm really Adam Thielen is one that I'm just super interested. Like we said in the pre-show, in the spreadsheets, I think it makes sense for them to mutually part ways. I really do. I really, really do. And then I think Thielen to the Bills, the Chiefs. I mean, even my Bengals, I'd be okay with. I think that makes sense. But the Bills and the Chiefs, especially, go try to win a Super Bowl. He did what he coached the kids up. He helped out, in the wide receiver room last year. I'm really, really interested to see what happens with Adam Thielen here. I think it makes sense for them to, cut him, but just again, mutually part ways is the way I would look at it with Adam Thielen and the Panthers. And then I'd be really interested to see where he goes. And those two particularly, Chiefs, Bills, just makes tons of sense. He's cheap. He wants to win a Super Bowl before he rides off into the sunset. It's almost certainly his last year. Wants to continue career, right? So yeah, I'm going Jack Besh. Super high, super high on Jack Besh. Super high at this ADP. I'm going to keep steaming him up personally. He's rising up the board, and I'm going to keep steaming him up. Give me Jack Besh over Jaden Higgins, over Jalen Royals. Royals is closer. Give me Jack Besh over Alec Ayomanor. Yeah. Here on River Rat takes, Harold Fannin. I like him a lot. That sucks. I'm going to be done at wide receiver here. So let's get rid of it completely. I don't even want to see it. Braylon Allen makes a lot of sense here. He makes a lot of sense here. It's between Braylon Allen and Jatavian Sanders for me. But let's take Braylon Allen. I think I need the running back help more. And then I'd like to bring in a rookie to wrap this up, this running back room. But I have two handcuffs. Jalen Warren's going to have a role regardless, and he could have a nicely expanded role. We'll see. Tony Pollard is the number one. He's the one, and Spears is the two. And then Montgomery's the 1B. When I'm building rooms like this too, I like that goal line work potential. So Aaron Glenn comes in to the Jets, right? Where did he come from? The Detroit Lions. Let's say you look at Breece Hall as a Gibbs type. He's not even really that close, but let's say you look at him as kind of a Gibbs type. And then Braylon Allen is your Montgomery type. Yeah, I kind of like to lean in on that just process and that theory, that thought process when I'm building a running back room like this. I really don't love it, but I don't hate it. Like I can fully get by with this running back room. It's an oddly thin team actually everywhere, this team. Except for like my wide receivers are good. They're fine, but there's a lot of fragility there. Like Marvin Harrison wasn't what he was kind of supposed to be as a rookie. Mike Evans is getting older. Maybe he wears down a little bit. Tyreek, same thing. He had an off year last year. Maybe that's who he is now. Hard to say. Malik Neighbors doesn't have a quarterback. Jaden Reed hasn't actually done it, hasn't taken that step. Christian Kirk, often injured. Might get traded. You never know, right? Jack Bech, rookie. So it's actually like you could say the whole team is relatively fragile. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I don't mind the team, but it definitely, you could say, has its flaws. That's for sure. But you got to get different. You got to get different when you're drafting, 50 in this tournament. I still have 24 bullets in this tournament, which I want to keep pushing. I want to stay at pace with this tournament. I obviously will be maxing, but it's 50% full and I'm 50% through my bullets. So I kind of want to keep it there. Like I said, with those other tournaments, I'm saving my last two bullets in the war room, the biggest board, the bigger board, all that stuff. I'm saving my last two bullets until after as late as I can, after the combine, after free agency, as late as I possibly can for those last couple bullets in those like 4 max, 5 max entries, right? I'm going to be maxing everything. So it's really no rush. I can draft big boards all I want, but I don't want to overdo it. I really don't. There's a couple guys that have maxed out, the big board and the little board already, which to me is just a bad use of your own draft capital. In my opinion, I could be wrong on that. Maybe they're ahead of the game. Maybe it works out for them, but the more information you can get, the better, man. Even, pack your bags. That's why I watch the tape. That's why I watch as much tape as I do, and I do everything that I do. You saw my spreadsheets. I do a lot of work, but that's why I do it. So I can draft early and be confident. And if I'm wrong, I'm only relatively wrong. I'm only a little bit wrong because you can even out that exposure. Let's say I'm horribly wrong on Trevion Henderson, which I highly, 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 highly doubt. But let's say I'm horribly, horribly wrong. I can stop drafting him and I will end up at, 15%, 14%. Not a big deal, right? Or I can keep, at pace, or, if he rises up the board, whoever we're talking about here, Jack Bech, let's say, whoever it is, if they rise up the board, I can still take them, at pace with the ADP rise, but I already have my bags packed, a relative amount early, late ADP, right? So I don't know, but I think it's a bad use of your own draft capital. If you ask me, if you're maxing out these tournaments already, I don't think that makes tons of sense. Let's go. I only need one more running back, and there's lots of rookies that I like. So I don't really need to do anything there. I have you could say maybe a little bit too much, but I think he'll be again the starting tight end on my Bengals. So as long as this guy has to go with another tight end, probably. I don't despise that. I don't love the ADP for likely. But let's go Mike Gesicki here. I think he's absolutely going to be back with the Bengals unless they draft Tyler Warren in the first round, which I really don't expect. As I've said before, it's a defensive tackle or cornerback in the first round for my Bengals, 100%. They will not trade the pick. They never do. They'll stick, they'll pick, and it'll be a defensive tackle or a cornerback, 100%. Mark my words. Mark my words. If I'm wrong, then I'm going to eat those words. But it's not. I just they do what they do, and they always do the same general thing when it comes to drafting. A little bit of Mason Taylor in my life. No Gunnar Helm in this tournament. Bretton Strange is pretty high priority. There is a player that I really want right here. And it's not one of these high exposure guys. Little too baggy packy for Audric Estime. Seen Tank Dell go a couple times around now. I don't think that makes a lot of sense to do. If you want to take him with the 20th, your last pick, I guess. Interesting. I'm going to bring in Elijah Arroyo. I like the tape. I have him ranked a little lower. I might bump him up. That's why I haven't shown my tight end rankings yet because I'm not finished. But I need to get some exposure to him. That's for sure. And this is a perfect tight end situation to make that happen. So yeah, because I'm bringing in a fourth. Whether I get Bretton Strange or not, I'm bringing in a fourth tight end. But I think that makes a lot of sense. I got to get some exposure. I recently caught wind of his yards per route run, which is really high, which I like a lot. Oddly enough, my guy Terrence Ferguson also has a really high yards per route run. 2%. I need to bump that up. I like Terrence Ferguson a lot. I think he's almost an exact clone of Colston Loveland. They're very similar to me. And, he's going 144, 100 picks. Yeah, 100 picks earlier. He's absolutely free in the 20th round, Terrence Ferguson. I'm going to get probably up to 6%. Nothing crazy, but 6%, maybe 6 to 8% tops sort of thing on Terrence Ferguson. I think he's all the way live. Like a lot of these tight ends, even this Jalen Conyers guy, I got to look into him. Former high school quarterback, got some run. He was super highly recruited. I don't know why the hell he originally committed to Oklahoma, didn't play in the COVID year, 2020, didn't play, transferred out, goes to Arizona State. Not really sure why you'd go to Arizona State. He was the number 4 tight end in the country out of high school. Why did you go to Arizona State after transferring out? Why'd you go to Oklahoma and then transfer out of Oklahoma and go to Arizona State and then transfer out of Arizona State and go to Texas Tech? I guess I could understand Texas Tech in that offense, but man, if you were that highly recruited, he was recruited by Texas, Ohio State, LSU, right? Why the hell did you go to friggin' Oklahoma? He's a Texas kid. So again, why didn't you just go to Texas? They offered him. I don't know. We could have been talking about Jalen Conyers and not even know who Gunnar Helm is right now, right? But anyways, that's an interesting one. I don't, yeah, it is what it is. But if the guy can play, he can play. I haven't watched tape yet. So again, I haven't finished my tight ends, but Jalen Conyers is a guy that I caught wind of today. Well, I knew about him, but I didn't really want to look into him until I saw that information. Well, I didn't see some information. I saw some game tape and I liked it. And then I went and looked into him and then I got all that information. Let's be fair to the process here. Let's be fair to the process. As someone posted a game, like a clip, like a one play clip where he took some Wildcat snaps and then he ran in a touchdown in a Wildcat snap, and then he threw a touchdown in a Wildcat snap. And that made me say, huh. So I did a little digging and I've shared that with you now. So here we are. Welcome back. Tons of rookies here. I mean, if Damian Martinez is there, I'll take him. I like Jordan James. Bashal Tootin looks like he went. No? All right. Where is he? I'll take Tootin for sure. There he is. I'll take Jarquez Hunter. Any of these rookies are fine by me. Yeah, any of these guys I'm okay with. That's pretty much it. But any of them I will take. I'll take Damian Martinez if he's there. Over 6 yards per carry in 2 different programs. That's nice. Big body guy. I like some Damian Martinez. And my bags are fully packed on Tootin. 32% in this tournament, 25% overall. Same thing with Jarquez, 20% in this tournament, 16% overall. Mind you, my Damian Martinez bags are pretty packed as well. So can really do whatever I want here. But considering the little bit of value on Damian Martinez, and again, kind of buying into that. Oh, there he goes anyways. Okay, well, Tootin or Hunter, and Tootin seems to be getting a little more buzz these days, which I expected. I have him ranked 1 spot higher. I do like Jarquez a lot. He's the pound for pound running back champ in this draft. But give me Tootin. And then I'm taking a tight end to wrap up the draft. If you're in the chat, hit that like button, guys. Put a lot of work into this episode. If you saw the spreadsheets, you know what I'm talking about. If not, watch it back. Check out the spreadsheets. Let me know what you think. Hit that like button for me. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. We'll stream again on Monday for sure. I don't know if it's a holiday for you guys in the States, but it's a holiday for me up here in the Great White North. I will not be working. Probably be like a little daytime type of. I'll probably do a daytime stream on Monday. Mix it up a little bit. And then, I don't know, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, one of those days, 2 of those days, something like that. Hit the notification bell so you see when I'm going live. But I would really like some feedback on the spreadsheets. If you think I'm out to lunch, if you think I'm talking absolute nonsense, let me know. Let me know what you think. Laporta and Freiermuth, you could stop there probably at 2, but I'm taking Strange if he's there. If not, I'll take someone else. Helm, maybe. Mason Taylor, I've got a share too. Probably Helm because I have none in this tournament. Yeah, none of these, or Juwan Johnson could work, but it's Brenton Strange here. Let's buy into that. Evan Ingram's not going to be on this team. So we'll go over my team. We'll go over Jason's team here on River Rat in the 12 spot. If you're in the chat and you drafted and just lurked and didn't tell me, let me know. We'll go over your team if you want. But we'll go over mine first since it's sitting here pulled up. The rare odd 3-6-7-4. Definitely a little bit of an odd build, but that's okay. I think it made sense for what I was doing here. So Jordan Love, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields. I think that makes a lot of sense. It plays well. Didn't reach on anybody, really. 6 picks on Fields, but whatever. He's rising. I'm taking him comfortably there. Yeah, plays off each other well. I like that. Makes sense. David Montgomery, Tony Pollard, Jalen Warren, Jalen Wright, Braylon Allen, Bashal Tootin. I don't love it. But it can work. I just need two of these guys to show up. Really, I need two of these guys to show up most weeks. And then, if I get some spike weeks out of, these three once in a while, it can work. It's a little fragile, don't get me wrong, but I think it can work. Malik Neighbors, Tyreek Hill, Mike Evans, Marvin Harrison Jr., Jaden Reed, Christian Kirk, Jack Besh. Yeah, again, you could poke holes in this for sure, but I like it and it makes sense and it could really work. Double stacked Jacksonville Jaguars, double stacked Green Bay Packers, and then just a naked, rushing quarterback. I like to do that a lot in these big boards. If you've noticed, I'm sure you have. I like taking Justin Fields, Anthony Richardson as my third quarterback, typically unstacked. Sometimes I'll bring in like a Downs or a Pittman, maybe a Alec Pierce or something like that with the Anthony Richardson shares. But I'll take them naked, which doesn't matter when you have a rushing type quarterback, especially a free agent like Justin Fields, right? But yeah, Neighbors, Hill, Evans, Marvin Harrison, Jaden Reed, Christian Kirk, Jack Besh. I like it. I like that. A little bit of a reach, you could call it, on Jack Besh, but I think he's rising up to around this range, especially after the combine. Like I said at another stream, like when he weighs in, when he measures in at 6'1", 220, and he runs a 4.4, his strap a rocket ship to his ass. So yeah, I like Jack Besh a lot. I love the tape. Loved the tape when I watched him. Lots to like. So I think he's rising. I'm okay with that, reach, if you want to call it that. And then the tight end room is a weird one, but Tucker Kraft, Mike Gesicki, Elijah Arroyo, and Brenton Strange. Again, double stacked Jacksonville, double stacked Packers. If Mike Gesicki ends up back with the Bengals, which I think he's very, very live to do, and then Arroyo, just a nice rookie piece. That's kind of been rising up boards. I need to add more shares, but this can work for sure. Yeah, I like this team. It's different, it's odd, and I like that. So I like it. Let's take a look at the Huron River Rat. Jason Calhoun in the chat. Caleb Williams, Michael Pennis, Derek Carr. I think this can work. We'll see what happens with Derek Carr, like we talked about earlier. He's definitely a trade candidate. Will not be dropped, will not be cut, but he could be traded if somebody wants to make that move. And I think it makes sense for the Saints to do it. So we'll see. I like Penix. I like Williams. I know you paired those up with some wide receivers. Let's see how that worked out. But I don't mind the room. I'm a huge fan, huge believer of Caleb Williams and Penix. If you're pairing them with London, which you did, I like that. Derrick Henry, James Cook, Trevion Henderson. I love that. Love that a lot. That's a really, really nice start. DeAndre Swift, that's really nice. Obviously, you could say your quarterback room's a little bit fragile for sure, but this is a really strong running back start. Really, really strong for me. And then Kendra Miller, sure, we'll see what happens there, but I don't mind it. And then LaQuint Allen, potentially the best pass catching running back. There's a lot of them. Brashard Smith is up there. There's a lot of good pass catching running backs, but LaQuint Allen was really good. Like the tape. I like this room, especially the top four. That's really nice. DeAndre Swift pairs with Caleb too. Can't be mad about that. Kendra doesn't really pair with Carr as like a pass catcher, but I mean, he's not going to not catch passes, right? If he's catching passes, potentially it's from Derek Carr unless he gets traded. Drake London, DJ Moore, Chris Olave, Jacoby Myers, Keenan Allen, Jalen Coker, Jalen Royals, Trey Tucker. Yep. That'll work. I like Drake London paired with Penix, DJ Moore paired with Caleb Williams. Keenan Allen could be back, so I don't hate that. If Derek Carr is still there, which is very, very live, very possible. Chris Olave is there, and then Kendra Miller. Don't mind that. I like this room. Yeah, I like this room. Again, it's similar to mine. A lot of potential question marks. Like you can poke some holes in all these guys, except for probably Drake London. But you could poke some holes in a lot of these guys. But I think it's good. I like it. I like Jalen Coker. Did you get any value anywhere? You could say you reached on Keenan Allen. I probably don't take him ahead of ADP, especially that he doesn't have a contract with the Bears as it sits. Doesn't mean he won't be back, but I'd probably rather take him. I don't know. I guess it is what it is. 133 or 134, 2 is kind of where you would take him, but he's potentially gone, probably gone. So it is what it is. I don't mind that. Dallas Goedert got a huge value there. Sure. Cole Kmet pairs up with Caleb and Harold Fannin. I like this room. I'm not a big Dallas Goedert guy, but when you get that kind of value, scoop it up. And these guys play off each other well. I like it. Obviously bought into both Chicago and Atlanta, which is fine, and New Orleans, which is fine. All NFC teams, I don't mind that. Yeah, nice work. That looks like it for in the chat. Let's get out of here, man. 2.5 hour stream. That was a long one, but we had a lot of stuff to talk about. Hit that like button for me, please. Last stream, we hit a record, all-time record in likes. So let's try to beat that this time. I appreciate everybody coming out. We'll get out of here. I'll be back on Monday, like I said, probably during the day. Probably daytime, little mix it up, daytime stream. Again, I'm off. So hit that like and subscribe button, hit that notification bell. Like we always say on Off the Schneid, if you're afraid to be wrong, you'll never be right. Hopefully tonight we were right. We'll get you out of here. Have a great night. Take care. Peace.